Hey guys, kinggath here, and welcome to another episode of the kinggath podcast. Today's guest is an artist who does some very, very unique stuff for Fallout. Welcome, MunkySpunk.
Hello, kinggath's audience.
How's it going, man? How you doing tonight?
I'm all right. First warm night out in the evening in the Northeast where I live. Spent a nice evening out on the deck. Really feeling
fantastic.
Yeah, feeling pretty good about that.
Now I heard you say before we started. I mentioned I grabbed myself a coffee, and you said instead of a coffee, you were drinking something else. Are you one of those people who can't have coffee at night, or do you not drink coffee at all?
No, actually, I keep old man hours. I am drinking a Diet Mountain Dew to stay awake for the interview. To be honest, I drink coffee in the mornings.
Okay.
I'm
addicted to this stuff.
The nearest caffeinated substance I could that helps me stay awake.
Right on. Well, I'll try and keep you at least engaged enough so you don't fall asleep until the end of of this. I'm actually considering switching over to old man hours because I had a conversation with my wife the other day, and I was always wondering, because I've always been a night person. Like, I do my best work I find at night, and it's not necessarily that it's at night. It's just that I'm left alone. You know what I mean? Like, there's nobody's going to disturb. For the most part, people don't call each other like after 9 o'clock or whatever. Like, us having this happen at this time of night, is not common for people to do this. In the gaming community, it seems that people tend to be more late night folks, and maybe creatives in general. And I couldn't understand how, like, my wife can get up every day at 5 a.m. But it occurred to me that one of the benefits of doing, having your alone time in the morning, because you get it then too. If you wake up at 5, like, nobody's calling you at 5 a.m. Like, people are going to leave you alone until, a normal human hour, like 8 o'clock or something, is that it's guaranteed you then get those first few hours in your morning to yourself. Whereas when I stay up till 2 in the morning, when I wake up at 8, like, people are ready to bother me. So I don't get any early morning hours to myself.
I definitely agree. Funny you say wake up at 5, which is pretty much my morning routine. I wake up at 5, and I really value the alone time I get to walk my dogs in the morning. And then it's check the emails and get on with work. But most of my, I would say, productive time would be in the morning before lunch. I don't know why that is, but yeah, the old man hours after 9:30 or so, normally I will drop dead unless there's something like a party or a conversation to keep me on my feet. That's just the way it is.
Yeah, well, if you're waking up at 5, that's I can understand hitting hay by 9 o'clock, which I probably am going to have to switch to that at some point, just because as my kid gets older, he needs more and more attention and sleeps less and less. So
it's not your kid. It'll be you. Trust me, it's not your kid. You'll realize, wait a second, it's 10 o'clock, and oh my God, I'm going to sleep.
Well, right now it's gonna be a slow transition to get there, I think. But sometimes I just like to rip the Band-Aid off. But I have noticed that the days when I'm super productive in the morning, I just have, like, the whole rest of my day is better. And just other days when somebody calls me with a work problem, like right at 8 a.m., like my day kind of gets stolen from me. Like, I have to do then what they wanted me to do instead of having the morning to do what I want to do to start out.
Those sons of bitches.
It's my own fault though, because that's the schedule I'm on. That's why I said I think the old man schedule makes sense, and it's very tempting. As soon as I can wrap my head around that idea of being awake at 5
I don't know. For me, it's not a matter of making sense or not. It's just biology.
Really? It just happens.
It happens as you get older. You just fall asleep earlier in the evening, and you wake up early in the morning. Seinfeld had an episode about that, about how Jerry Seinfeld's father would be done with the day about like 6 p.m. or 7 p.m.
Right.
Yeah, that's just the way it is.
Yeah, we make fun of my father-in-law because he was always fighting the whole idea of getting old, but now he's like fully embraced like he's in Florida, retired, and eating dinner at 4 o'clock, and so we're always poking fun of him about how he gave up on that whole idea real fast. Like,
eating at the country buffet and everything, huh?
Right. So that's not what we're here to talk about. Not talking about morning routines or old man stuff. We want to talk about all of these, all this art you do, because I've seen your stuff here and there, and like we've been in contact for a long time. Just here, like occasionally. I think we probably first ran into each other on the Nexus Discord. But the biggest release I have seen of yours that was like blew my mind was the and I'm gonna get the name wrong. Unicorn farts and God rays. Is that right?
That is correct. It was
That name is brilliant. I love it.
tongue-in-cheek name for a colorful light.
But yeah, it's a beautiful, gigantic settlement build kit. Just ginormous. Like the number of things you got in there is nuts.
It's mostly ginormous by the factor of the number of textures you have. I was scanning on DeviantArt one day for tileable textures that might look nice on for a job yesteryear. I don't even remember what it was, but I came across some stained glass textures that were tileable, and I was wondering if I could do something with them. And then I learned how to mix some normal maps and specular maps, and then I got a little bit better with PBR texturing. And I went, hey, I could really make these look like glass. And the artist who created the actual 2D images that are the stained glass was very open with letting me use them as long as I wasn't profiting. And so I made it all sorts of essentially lamps that you could see out there with all the different textures. So I believe there's like 53 different styles of stained glass in 4 lead metal patterns, I guess you would say.
Yeah.
And I started mastering FO4 edit about then and batch processing, and it didn't take long for me to learn how to turn 53 different types of lamp A into 53 different types of lamp B through F, let's say. Right. And so it's huge because of the textures as far as size is concerned, but the number of items, which is that you can conceivably construct, is roughly 6,200, but it's mostly because there are 53 different styles of each of the items that I put in there because of the different color options that you have.
Right.
But it started, I believe, when I was exploring something called Gobo textures. Are you familiar with those?
Yes, those are really cool. There's some really cool ones in the Arcade Creation Club pack where you get to project like a Vault Boy image on the wall from a spotlight. Really cool.
Yeah, it turns out the fire barrel that you see in, say, Hangman's Alley that broadcasts the image of the fire, the grating.
Oh yeah, it has like the grating. Wall. Yeah, that looks awesome.
Yeah, that's all done through something called Gobos, which stands for Go Before Optics, which is a real term used in stage lighting and performance, and it's something that they put into, say, a spotlight before the actual optical bending of the light pattern. So in a layman's term, it's essentially the color that they put into the optics. And Fallout, the Gamebryo engine, can deal with color optics. And I played with that one day on a vanilla lamp, and I went, wait a second, I can project a stained glass pattern on the wall. What can I do with this?
Yeah.
And so, long story short, I realized I could create some lamps and place some optics along with them, and using a script that you and a number of other people helped me developed to put in mist in the right places and, say, glow meshes, and especially the gobos, which project the right color patterns on the wall, next to wherever you would maybe put the lamp in.
Right.
And I don't really know what possessed me to make that mod. I don't really. If you look at my non-booby mods,
I wasn't gonna bring that up, but yeah, your catalog was mostly like body slide.
That's what got me into it. But let's just say, there's a hurdle. It's a closed skill. There's only so much you can learn about it, and then you're done with the mental stimulation. Mm-hmm. And I just wanted to keep learning. I'm not into Fallout to play, to be honest. I don't play very much. I'm in for modding and learning new stuff. And yeah, what got me into modding is not what I do these days. And I kind of just go where it takes me. Right now, I'm working on a greenhouse, believe it or not, with all sorts of glowing plants and stuff.
Do you that because you sent me a video of that? Do you care if we use that in the background of this? We could have that going in the conversation, or is that something you want to keep down the down low until you're ready to release?
No, let's go ahead. That's an expansion on maybe one of my mods is called the Left Field Diner.
Okay,
and it's a diner that's under the bleachers in Diamond City, and it was kind of a showcase for what I was working on with the stained glass mod, and so there's a lot of stained glass in that diner. But I figured, so the diner occupies part of under the bleachers, but the bleachers go all the way from center field to right field, so there's a lot more room under there.
Sure.
And so I just kept building back there and seeing where my mood would take me. And there's a lot of empty space back there if you take the meshes that Bethesda provided for the outside of Diamond City at the top of the wall on the outside of Diamond City along the fens,
right,
and wall it in. There's an absolute ton of space in there to build under. And so I've kind of let my mind just run wild. And right now I'm working on the greenhouse, but there's also other space under the bleachers that I'm looking to expand on, and that are some of the project is significantly built. Others is just kind of waiting because I'm kind of chaotic in my approach. I do what I want to do when I want to do it because
sure.
I don't get paid. And my primary concern is keeping it fun and doing what I want to do.
That's a good attitude to have for mod authoring when you're doing this, just because you've got to keep yourself motivated when it's a free project. Now, personally, I'm one of those taskmasters on myself. Like I like whip myself to make sure I hit my target release dates and everything. But there are definitely weeks where I'm not having fun, so I don't recommend that method for everybody.
Well, you've got a devout following, and I'm not going to say it's undeserved either, but I don't feel so much pressure, and I don't have my own, say Discord channel and people going, when's the update? Right. So I can understand the pressure you feel, but I have to say I don't feel it.
Well, you go slow and steady, because I've seen some of your stuff you'll send out, like with those scripts you were talking about for that mod. I remember working with you on those, and then it was way after that before you actually released. And I had seen screenshots in some other channels that we're both in. Or I don't know if that channel is still running. We had a channel we were working toward making community tutorials, and that project kind of fell apart. But I think you had been posting stuff in there. If I recall correctly.
Mimafe, I believe.
Yeah, Mimafe was gonna lead the charge on that, and I think she's just had too much real life.
Too much school. She's on school.
Yeah.
Actually, I've hung out with her a couple of times in real life. She's a really nice girl.
Right on.
She's going into to mortuary sciences actually, but that's enough about the private life of somebody who has not given me permission to talk about her. So she's very sweet.
But yeah, I remember you'll share stuff, and then it'll be a long time before we see it actually get released.
Yeah, I've got a number of projects on the back burner that's part of working on what I want to at whatever given time. But the scripts that you helped me with, the lag time actually was getting all those different lamps and building patterns and workshop menus up and running, because it was a learning experience for me. I'd never done a workshop mod before. I was complete newbie at how I was supposed to make my items show up in the workshop menu, much less snap points and glowing.
Right. Oh, you're probably an expert now, though, after the amount you put in there.
No, I'm not. It sucks.
You still feel like you got a lot to go?
I don't like snap points.
I feel you on that. Snap points are a pain in the butt, and they don't always work how you'd think they would. Like sometimes you'll put them in place, and you're like, okay, that's going to be perfect. You go in game, and like nothing. It doesn't click, and it's like, all right, so then you go adjust your collision, still nothing. Like it almost seems random. Like
the ceiling lights are the worst. The ceiling snaps are the absolute worst too. I don't know if you ever had any experience with those.
I've played with all sorts of the snaps, and they feel but I mean, I finally learned about there's actor values you can put on things that say override, and those can help, but even those aren't perfect.
Yeah, they help, but I've notice some things just don't make any sense. You have to alternate connect points in the NIF to change where it snaps in the game. But
Right.
I helped Demanding with her noir lamps to snap to the ceiling with the counterintuitive stuff I learned during Unicorn Farts.
I love that mod name. I'm a big fan of ridiculous mod names. Like I just found a couple weeks ago, or maybe less than that, because somebody recommended it to me. The mod called "Rip a Man's Arm Off and Beat Him to Death with It."
Oh, I'm in love already. Where is it? Send me the link.
Yeah, I'll send you that after the chat. But yeah, I love mods with ridiculous mod names, especially if they do something cool. And Unicorn Farts, like it's funny. I actually, my wife always doesn't. She never understands why I say this, but I hate stained glass. Like I think it just looks terrible in real life, but it looks so cool in the game.
I'm a big fan of stained glass. Period.
Yeah.
I spent some time living in the Midwest when I was going to college, and I happened to be really good friends with a guy whose landlord was a stained glass artist, like a world class. He would do cathedral stained glass he'd do stained glass for cathedrals in Germany and Bavaria and stuff. And
oh, wow.
His workshop was as big as a barn, and it was just amazing when he took me through it, all the stuff he knew. I was just blown away by the creative process. It was amazing. But to be honest, I don't know what possessed me to do a stained glass mod. Don't have any particular weak spot for stained glass. I just like stained glass.
Well, if I look at aside from, like, obviously, like you said, your booby mods, it looks like you enjoy tackling things that haven't been done before. Because, like, your throwing weapons mod, you had put that out, or at least you'd started working on it. I don't remember if you released it before or after Nero had that breakthrough, but you had the throwing weapons mod, and it's just as impressive as your Unicorn Farts in the sense of just, like, the depth you went. Like, you like thought of a ton of different throwing weapons and some really phenomenal ones like the shoe and the pan of the pink goo. Like those are great, like extras. Like you take your stuff to the extra, like you dial it up to 11, which I really appreciate. But there aren't any other throwing weapon mods, at least nothing in close to what you did there. And then you even got a lot of the extra stuff working. So, you made sure that it's got the spinning and like it actually attempts to, at best as the engine can support, connect and stay stuck in the bodies and stuff. So like it seems to me like you enjoy tackling things that haven't been done before.
Yeah, I do. There's a lot of mods out that are like repeats of mods that have been done. Like how many tracer mods or bullet sinker mods or how many I don't know, standard retextures of gun mods that have been done. And you log into Nexus Mods on a given morning and you see, there's one mod that's simply a retexture of the black leather coat. And I struggle to call them mods, and I say this knowing full well as an ex-booby mod person. But I try to give people a little something special. I don't try to just throw it out there and be done as soon as possible. Like the current mod I'm working on with the greenhouse, it's also going to be a player home. There's 2 custom merchants, and it's, what I was saying before about the mental simulation. I'm learning quest writing now, and there's a couple of quest lines already where the player will hopefully earn the player home that they get under the bleacher section through doing quests for the NPCs that are already there, custom voiced NPCs.
Oh, I love that. I absolutely love when people take the time to integrate their stuff into the game world. I'm like really, when you sent me those videos of the stuff you're working on, I love that stuff. I love things that flesh out the game world more, and then when people take the time to like, implement it into the world, and quests are just the greatest way to do it. And it's also the most painstaking way because it takes a lot. And as you're learning right now, and as I just learned with Conqueror, building quests is probably the most amount of work you have to do for the smallest payoff. Like I agree. You put in dozens and dozens of hours for like a 5-minute sequence for the player. It's crazy.
I agree. As Conquest is those quests in conquests are probably on a completely different level than the scene and, the fetch or escort the Brahmin quest, which is what I'm working on right now. But yeah, there's no really easy way to do it, and you try to anticipate every conversational avenue that they'll take and trying to keep it realistic and recycle the player conversation.
Yes, that's a challenge.
It blows the mind. Yeah, it does. But again, it's a learning process. I'm sure there's a time I'll become sick of writing quests and stuff, but for now it's still pretty interesting. I'm getting a lot of help from do you know Thuggy Smurf from
oh yeah, he's
Fusion
probably
City Rising?
He's probably the best in the community at quest building.
I agree.
I unfortunately I have his stuff on a list to play. Like I want to play through all of his stuff. But it's always been I'm in the opposite camp of you. I'm always the anti-booby guy, like of people like I see that stuff and I get turned off, or I'm like, oh come on, like let's keep I love the, and it's funny because I had this conversation with somebody else of I don't know where that comes from, because I have no problem with the gore. Like if anybody who's watched any of my playthrough videos knows I am obsessed with like over the top Kill Bill style violence. Like
yeah,
I have like live dismemberment turned on, and I got the bloody mess perk right away. Like I love crazy gore, and that's that should be way more offensive than some nipples. But for whatever reason, I see the booby mods, and I'm like, oh, and like it's cringy, and I don't know where that comes from. But
to each their own. I tell you, what can I give you a perspective on somebody who's been on both sides of that?
Sure.
What I don't like about them is that I'll pour my heart and soul into a mod like, say, Left Field Diner, making a custom merchant and learning voices and making the stained glass and the gobos to cast that nice colored light on the floor. And then I'll barely scratch, say, 100 endorsements, and here comes, the big booby CBBE preset that the guy worked on for maybe 5 minutes, and it gets 200 endorsements, and it beats you to the top of the list.
Right. Yeah, that's pretty frustrating. It's also becomes kind of it's like a meme within the community that every morning we log on and it's just weapons and boobs, and it's like, come on, guys, there's got to be cooler mods than that.
It is. It's either guns or boobs, generally speaking, and one sort or the other.
Those are probably the most universally loved things, is why.
Yeah. Although I'll give them some of the outfits like Nero's take a lot of skill, and a lot of those gun mods take a lot of skill. I would say you see probably 10 times as many well done gun mods as you do boob mods, to be honest.
Yeah, the gun mods are super impressive. I just had last week's guest was the Rizzler, and we're talking a bit about weapon mods, and just the amount of work that goes into those is staggering. And not to mention, it's also one of those things where, like, the stuff that you and I do in the modding, we just kind of just figure our way out through it. We didn't come in with a preset of skills to make a lot of the mod stuff. Like I
scream, I twist Gamebryo until it screams. Essentially, I don't have great skills, to be honest, modding.
I feel the same way, but like the weapon modders, they have years and years of training doing 3D modeling and animation. Like that's like one of those 10 years to mastery skills that those guys have. So like people like Nero and the Rizzler and War Daddy, like their stuff is so damn impressive. And that it's not just the hours they put into actually building the mod, it's the years of training that they put themselves through before that.
Yeah, and it's all amateur. It's amazing what the stuff they do is. It blows my mind. Just Nero especially, I have to say. Not to slight any other modders, but
no, Nero does go above and beyond, and he puts in all the little touches, like does a lot of special effects and does detailed animations and puts in lots of add-ons, and his stuff really is above and beyond.
Yeah, exactly. You were mentioning before you didn't know which came first, Nero's weapons, blade weapons, or mine. His came first because his tumbling throwing blade was like the breakthrough. I had everything working except the tumbling action of the blade in midair, until he came along and said I could use his, and that was it for the throwing weapons. I'd finally cracked it.
Right. I think before that, didn't you say your weapons felt like Magneto shooting pieces of metal around?
Yeah. You ever thrown a hatchet at somebody and have it just kind of levitate in position without rotating towards them? That's the way it was looking.
Oh, yeah, that's no good. And it's one of those little things where the rest of like is functionally it's identical. It doesn't really matter, but it's so jarring to the experience that it would have been just unacceptable. Like
lore breaking.
Those little immersion things are like so breaking to your experience, and it's funny because they don't really matter. Like as far as like the speed the weapon takes to get from your character's hand to the enemy is identical. The damage is identical. So from a absolute gameplay perspective, it doesn't matter, but it does matter. It matters a lot, and it's
just one of those things that you don't notice is gone until it's gone.
Right. But if it would have felt like one of the like, I bet that's probably it's been so long since I've played some older games, but I would imagine that would have been like a breakthrough back in the day for gaming. Like it would have been like, you know, like the first Nintendo game to get thrown weapons, and then all of a sudden the next generation game had them tumbling in the air. It would have been like, whoa.
Probably Metal Gear, knowing that.
Right. So the reason we went down that tangent of booby mods was because one of the things that I love the work. I always read the descriptions of Thuggy Smurf stuff, and you know, I've watched people play it. I haven't played it myself because of this weird thing I have against the boob stuff. Is because like you can tell him and his team put in so much work into it. Like the Project Valkyrie, like reading that description, I'm like, oh my god, this is like perfection in a mod. But their focus on like prostitution and strip clubs just is such a turnoff for me, which is unfortunate.
I have to say, in his defense, it's not really so much as a preoccupation. It's not like you are required to spend a lot of time there. In one regard, you could say that the Lawless Wasteland would have that sort of thing in it.
Absolutely.
And, you know, despite all that, you know, you go to the Brotherhood of Gold bunker. There's nothing like that is going on in Outcasts and Remnants, but. I think it's worth it. You know, hold your nose and play through the pimp parts. You don't have to pimp anybody. You have to actually take out a pimp gang.
Right.
But hold your nose and play.
I think it's more like the stuff that is like screenshots of like go-go dancers essentially is always like that feels so immersive breaking and breaking and like out of place.
Think about like when you're making a preview for a comedy movie that really sucks. You're gonna zero in on the good jokes that movie has, right, and show those in the preview. So same thing. Right. He's gonna zero in on the boobies,
right?
But, I'd say
but unfortunately, like that sales tactic to get the kids essentially, like I don't think I think that turns off a lot of it, because I would say like so in for example the Discord server for some settlements, it's almost entirely mod authors or people interested in becoming mod authors, and there's almost a universal distaste for that in conversation. Like it's always become like so I would guess, I know obviously the player base is different than that, but on a creator level I think it's almost like it's, you know, using the joke analogy used, it's considered, it would be like the equivalent of lowbrow comedy. Like it is.
It's the low road to endorsements and getting a mod up, to be honest. But
I just don't think it's necessary in quest modding. Like there's such a hunger for quest modding, and I've seen some of his stuff play out in Let's Play channels, and it's really well done. Yeah. So I think just on the merits of being good quest mods, it just doesn't. I just think it doesn't need all that, and then it would have a higher respect level, but maybe he doesn't care about that, because like if you look at the older Fallouts, they all had prostitution and
they had even worse
hookers and like they didn't shy away from it. They were all about the like that grittier look on the world, and you know, maybe, you know, to each his own, like you said at the beginning of our conversation, like everything floats somebody's boat a little differently. There's just always been, as long as I've been around in modding communities, there's always been and maybe this is elitism, but it's kind of like there's this look down on of the
it's to each their own. You know, if we all like the same thing, it'd be a really boring world, and we'd have one type of beer. You know?
Right.
I don't let it stop me. I don't let it entice me either. I download the quest mod for the quests and the stories, not for the boobies. You know, there's plenty of booby mods out there.
Right. I think that's why it's always been like, to me, it's one of those unfortunate things. Like, oh, here's somebody with this amazing talent, and they're going that direction. But I guess that happens in any media form. It's like there's always, you know, there's talented people. There's probably talented people producing porn out there. Like
he's playing to his audience.
Right. So, Like no, and again, I intend on playing through it. It was just to me, it's like I was looking for things I could play in a stream format, like so that I could put it out to an audience, and it was like, yeah, this stuff is gonna get me flagged. Like,
well,
so that's not.
Let's
not
just
ideal.
say, despite the screenshots, there's not a preoccupation with it in the storyline as it unfolds in the mod.
Sure. It definitely, and maybe that's a misconception that happens because of the way it's advertised. Of that, because I don't think I'm alone in assuming that that's the case with with his mods, because all of his mods tend to have some of that stuff in the screenshots and like the advertising material. So then it's like, oh, okay, well that's the quest guy who just is obsessed with boobs.
Oh yeah, because I can't help what screenshots he puts up. Just trust me, it's not a overt preoccupation with said thing.
It feels like it's in there in a natural level.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
well, that's good to know.
I mean, they don't. It's not rammed down your throat.
Right. Wait, like many of the of the hot file.
Exactly.
Mods.
Exactly.
So yeah, you're all right. Well, I appreciate that endorsement in that direction, because I definitely have wanted to play like Project Valkyrie. Reading that description, I'm like, oh my god, I gotta play this. Like that sounds, because I think everybody had the same complaint about
the ending.
Fallout 4's ending, is that it was just like, oh, it's the same ending no matter what. You just get a different skin on it, essentially.
It keeps going. He's actually worked. I'm doing the voice for the guy who supposedly, I don't want to give too much away, but
sure.
I'm doing the voice for, I have done the voice for one of the Diamond City politicians at the end of the game. And he's supposed to be related to the merchant that I have in Left Field Diner. So Dougie Smurf himself is, as I'm learning quest modding from him, he's been very patient, very informative. Has been pretty eager to adopt my mods, and he's been looking into working with StatsMac 10 from, I don't know how to pronounce that.
From Diamond City Expansion. Yeah, his stuff. Yeah, that Diamond City Expansion is really impressive, and
I'm really looking, isn't it?
It's so impressive. I had trouble figuring out what stuff was his, because it had been so long since I'd played the game. Because like you, I think you had said you don't play the game much. I think that's pretty common for most mod authors. Is we played it once, and then we're like, we got the tools to play with the toy or play in the engine, and then it's like, oh, this is more fun than the game. Like,
yeah, honestly, I've only ever finished Fallout 4 once. Please don't stone me to death. The main story, I've only finished once. I think I've started 4 storylines.
Yeah, I tend to do the same thing on all of the Bethesda games. I'll finish it once or twice throughout the life of the game. Most of the time, I just keep starting new characters, and that's the fun for me. So I don't think you're unique in that regard, but I think your attitude of like, I don't really play this game anymore, I just build for it, is pretty common among mod authors. Like most of it's funny, whenever we have an expansion come out for Sim Settlements, most of the team is shocked when they see the final like trailers and stuff. It's like, oh my god, we put that in there, because they just never played it during testing phases, because they just don't have the time to play. It's all about the creating. So then it's pretty funny how much of the team has never played anything that we've been building.
Yeah, I warned you about that before we started the interview, and you said no problem.
Oh yeah, no, that's I'm not talking about Sim Settlements in particular. I'm talking about the idea of mod authors not playing the game is just super common.
Yeah, I agree. It's from the people I know on Discord that I work with or ask a lot of advice from. Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, you just like at the time that I have to game, it's like I would rather be building new stuff for the game.
So it is. I think right now I'm in a creation kit mode right now. I appreciate the workshop, and I see the value to players that use workshop, but right now I think I just want to make cells that are just kind of exist for people to drop by, as you'll see by no doubt by the greenhouse mod video that you're going to be running in the background.
Yeah, that's super impressive. That music is really good too. Did you source that from somewhere, or did you make it yourself?
I typed in copyright free music YouTube.
Oh, it was really, and then I went well with the.
I tried sifting through stuff. Basically, magical forests were some of the keywords, and fairy forests, some of that kind of stuff. And there's I think about 20 minutes of new music. That one particular track, I suited the the greenhouse really well. So it's no coincidence that was the one that was taken with the video. But there's other stuff like violin music and one thing almost sounds like a sad Skyrim track, believe it or not.
Well, that won't be unwelcome by most players of these games.
I'm sure.
So you're doing a lot of world building right now, and I like that you're doing it within the game world in spaces that are unused, because that feels really cool. Like some of my favorite mods are the like the interior projects mod that Chuck Steele always does for Bethesda games, and his Town Interiors is no exception to that. I love it. The Diamond City expansion, love that. Like anytime I see a mod, or when people recommend a mod to me that's just like filling in more stuff, I'm like, grab it, no question. So like,
well,
when you showed me
I'll
this,
send
I'm
you
like,
the other
these are
video
gonna
that
be
I have.
You sent me the Fens Sheriff Department. That's going to be part of that bleacher area too.
That's part of the bleacher areas. But then I'll send you. I'm not sure if I sent you the center field tour.
Okay.
I'm scrolling.
You did not today. I mean, maybe you did in a past conversation.
So if you stitch together the Fens Sheriff's Department and the center field tour, that will take you from deep right fields. If you're standing at home plate, deep right field, all the way left to, or stretching around center field to left field where the diner is. And
very cool.
So under those, I have the diner is in center field, and there's the greenhouse, and and there's actually some apartments and some custom voice NPCs in the center field, plus the player home. And then right field is mostly, as you mentioned, the Fens Sheriff's Department, which is my big pet project that I'm working on.
Now, is this within the Diamond City world space or out in the Commonwealth world space?
It's out in the Commonwealth world space, but it's have some entrances to Diamond City. The Fens Sheriff's Department. Well, if you walk into Diamond City from outside when you're playing the game, you get some lines from the Diamond City guards about how nervous they are. You know, what do they do to be, deserve being assigned outside the wall, and you'll be safe out here, I hope. It occurred to me that, these Diamond City has been there for at least 100, 150 years. And given, I forget when the Minutemen helped the Diamond City fend the super mutants off, but I realized Diamond City's been there quite a while as a settlement.
Sure.
And if you think about these guards that are working outside the wall, they see combat several times a week with sometimes inhuman hulking beasts, and these aren't going to be people that are nervous about defending Diamond City. These are career combat grunts. And I used to be on the project for Great Green Jewel, and I was given the task of making armor for the Diamond City guards, and I wanted to toughen them up a little bit.
Yeah.
And so the compromise was made to leave the inside guards more as the Diamond City guards, but make the outside guards tougher. And so the Fens Sheriff's Department idea was born.
Okay.
And Great Green Jewel kind of dissolved, but I kept going with the Fens Sheriff's Department. And you can run the video. Maybe your viewers have seen it by now in the interview. The idea is that these guys are essentially, you remember the Space Marines from Aliens 2?
Okay.
Them, essentially. They're defending Diamond City. They live in Diamond City. Their families are in Diamond City, but these are career combat veterans. These are hardened soldiers. They're fueled by whiskey and cigars. And you don't want them over for dinner, but there's nobody else in the world that you'd rather have defending Diamond City. And,
sure. Yeah, and they would be pretty hard because there's constantly like super mutant and raider attacks.
Exactly. That was my rationale. And so I'm going to send you screenshots. Maybe you can put it up during the podcast for your viewers to see.
I'm sure they would love any video or screenshots you can send, because normally what we do is we just make them stare at a tree.
Oh, they've got their own camouflage pattern that's made to look like a brownstone townhouse rubble.
Oh, cool.
There's sniper, there's classes, there's scout, there's scaver classes. The sheriff is actually an NPC based on Imperator Furiosa from Fury Road.
Oh, nice.
She's ex-Outcast. but she'll be wandering around in the video.
That's so funny that
sheriff's
you did
department.
that. So that we have a character in Conqueror we just introduced in the last patch. Exact same setup, the same description as you just gave. We described her like Furiosa, and as an ex Outcast.
Oh damn! Well, mine has a robotic arm, so there.
Ours has a robotic leg.
Damn it!
It's fine. I doubt anybody will notice that.
Yeah,
there's two
no big
characters
deal.
with similar backgrounds.
I was thinking.
It's just funny that you had the exact same idea as our writer.
You're not comparing calling yours Angriosa, are you, or something?
No, Ophelia is the name of our character.
Ophelia. Okay.
Yeah.
I haven't have my sheriff doesn't even have a name, to be honest yet.
And she doesn't look at all like Furiosa. We changed the originally that was just like the drawing on for her attitude, and then we ended up using a different design for the character.
Actually, I took I wrote the author of a mod who does looks menu recreations of celebrities, and I asked him if
cool.
I asked him if I could use the why is her name escaping
Charlize
me now?
Theron.
There we go. Yeah, if I could use her lookalike, because it's spot on. He has he has more hits than misses, but he has hits and misses. But the Charlize Theron was like spot on.
Yeah, some of those, a few of them I've seen on there are like frightening how good they look, and then others are like, I don't know, man, that's a reach.
Yeah, I'll send you a screenshot of Furiosa's face as well. You're like, wow, this is just spot on Furiosa face too.
Awesome.
But the Fenn Sheriff's Department, basically the front door starts at the southeast corner of Diamond City, and this is all outside of Diamond City. On the wall, though,
Sure.
If you've ever toured maybe up 3 floors on the east side of Diamond City, you'll see that there's brick shelters on that wall that could say maybe be the press box or the administrative offices that were never expanded upon, and that's where I've put the Sheriff's Department.
Oh, very cool.
It's
lifted up a few stories. Do you have like a lift to get up there or something?
There's scaffolding, but yes,
okay,
there's all videos. There's a front entrance, and I'll send the video to you. There's a rear entrance for the deliveries.
So this is pretty far along then, because I scrubbed through, and I watched the first 5 minutes of the video, then I scrubbed through little bits, and I just saw how detailed you had put all the spaces in there. This is pretty far along then.
Since the Sheriff's Department video, yeah, I've added the front and rear entrances and expanded upon center field, which if you go into Left Field Diner, which is basically you can go from the inside of Diamond City into the diner, walk around out through the diner into the Sheriff's Department, and go back outside Diamond City. So I'm providing some more entrances and exits to Diamond City as well. On
cool.
This, but they're all above ground level. There's a lift at the service entrance, the scaffolding at the front entrance. You're gonna have to watch the video. There's a lot of spaces under the bleachers in the outfield that is now occupied by a very hardened security force and a couple of citizens in the greenhouse and the diner and stuff like that.
Awesome. And you're gonna work in some quests to tie all this kind of stuff together?
Oh yeah, I'm getting better at quests like every week. I just finished writing what I think was a pretty unique quest, because part of the reason I get tired of Fallout or Skyrim is, let's say if you're playing Skyrim, well, I've got to go get a ring. What is it? Where is the ring? Let me guess. It's in a cave full of skeletons, right? So I'm trying to do some type of unique quest ideas for Fallout, and one of them is a Brahmin escorting quest. You actually have to act as like a caravan merchant, or in that regard, and the Brahmin will follow you through enemy territory, and you have to keep it alive. There's no merchant, there's no caravan guards, but you got to bring it back to Diamond City. And what's worse is the Brahmin is set to very brave, so it will try to help you in the fights. It won't run away.
Oh, that's pretty funny.
And then like the fetch quests, let's just say you've gotten fetch quests in Fallout 4. It says get so-and-so from somewhere throughout the Commonwealth, and the map marker lights up, pinpointing you exactly where this thing is from across the Commonwealth, even though you're supposed to have no idea where it is. Well, my fetch quests, immediately 7 map markers will light up.
Okay.
Because the person who gave you the quest only has an idea, a rough idea of where you may find this item.
That's clever. And do you randomize it so that way people can't just guide it?
No, I haven't randomized it yet.
Okay, well, if you need help with that, I'll happily give you some scripts.
I will. I've got, but the map markers, they all light up, and the item is only at one of them, and the item, say, is like super duper heavy.
Sure.
That's one of them. So you have to shed some gear and, go into the super mutant hive with, probably a quart gun and some, and some underwear, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So
that's cool. Like, it's hard. It's introduce some new twists because this is the I've watched game dev talks from developers about how there really are only X amount of different types of things you can actually do in a video game, and it's a very small number, and I don't remember the number they came up with, but it was from some of the developers of World of Warcraft, how they were trying to disguise the fact that there are so few things you can actually do in a video game to make it more interesting for players when they're developing. Because like World of Warcraft is a grind, so it's designed for, they basically have to trick players into going through thousands of these little moments over and over again, and like the way to disguise those and stuff, and it's challenging because there are only so many things. Like the thing you just said about how you play Skyrim and it's always like, all right, I got to get a gold ring. Let me guess, it's in a cave. I mean, that's just one of the limitations of the way gameplay works when you want it to have a scripted goal, like a thing that the computer has to be able to measure that you accomplished this goal. And so it tends to be things like, go fetch this MacGuffin or kill X enemies or collect X things on the ground. Like there are only so many different things you can do. So throwing in some of those variations like you're describing seems like a nice way to shake things up.
Yeah, I'm doing my best to think of things. The sheriff's department is going to have a lot of quests too. Obviously I'm getting faster at writing them, but the update, which I'm calling Diamond City Bleachers, I believe. I haven't made up my mind yet. I'm trying to think of those new twists for the quests, like the really heavy items or escort missions, stuff like that. But you're right, there's only so many types of missions you can have out there.
Now there's you said an update. Is this a mod? No, is part of this mod? I know part of this mod exists, but I didn't realize it was all going to be the same mod. You have is it the Left Field Diner? Is that the one that's out there right now?
Yeah, well, to be perfectly blunt, this whole thing started out as a Diamond City Guard overhaul. Okay. That was the operational name for the Fen Sheriff's Department. And the first thing I installed was the Fen Sheriff's Department video that you're seeing, those contents. And I didn't know quest writing back then, so I didn't really feel the mod was ready for release, even though you see a beautiful cell and interiors in there and NPC.
Yeah, it's really detailed. And hopefully, and if you don't mind, like I said, I'll put as many of these videos as you want in the background of our thing.
Yeah.
So
yeah, no problem.
You got over that you don't mind spoiling. But so people might already be seeing it, and they don't need us to tell them. But if we don't have it in there, it's very detailed from what I've seen.
But then I got sidetracked because I'm a modder, and I go where my mood takes me into the Left Field Diner, and I made this showcase about the stained glass. I was like, where am I going to put a diner? Where would it make sense to put such an over-the-top diner full of stained glass? And the only real answer in the Commonwealth either is going to be the top of a building of some fancy restaurant, or Diamond City as an attraction.
Sure.
And so I stuck it in the Left Field Diner, and then I slowly started building past the Left Field Diner into Center Field, and then I realized I had some extra space to take up, and I went, what would go well in that space? And then the greenhouse was born, which you'll see the video for that. Just going completely overboard at the greenhouse. It was supposed to be really simple at first. I turned it into a bioluminescent greenhouse. It's off the hook now.
Yeah, it looks amazing.
And then I kind of worked forward from left field towards the rear of the sheriff's department, and almost the entire interior cell is built now. Demanding is offered to help with finishing off some of it, especially the textiles place where the sheriff's department makes their clothing and their armor.
Okay.
But right now, mostly that's left is fleshing out the armors and making all the constructibles consistent and weighting them correctly, and then the NPCs and quests, and that should be ready for release. But and then the NPCs and quests, we could take several months at least.
Right. I say that like an afterthought, and that's one of the harder parts.
Exactly.
But it is. I find it fascinating personally. Like I've only had touched on quests, and it wasn't until this last release that I got way into it and did a ton of it. I'm really enjoying it as a new challenge because it's a big challenge. Not only like the thing we talked about with the working within the player's dialogue, but also like making the AI do what you want it to, and thinking about all the different ways and order the player can do things because they have total freedom. It's a very fun challenge.
You're talking about dialogue conditions, aren't you?
Dialogue conditions and just the fact that like the quest can, like the player could do things out of order, or how they can bypass your encounters with stealth and things, and like lock picking, and like there's so many things they can do to make your quest fall apart. That you have to
dear Lord,
for.
Yeah, your quests are off the hook more than mine. Mine are pretty elementary right now.
You'll get there. I think you just have to, once you start, because especially because you said you're driven by the challenge. So then each time you complete one of these quests, your next one you're going to get more ambitious with.
You got that right. The third quest already is the Brahmin escort mission, and right from the get-go, I didn't want a fetch quest, so I did the map marker, 7 map marker light up type deal. So I agree. I'll try trying something new.
So it won't be long before you're wrestling those demons of. Especially when it's always funny when you start tossing it over to testers and you're positive. You're like, oh, I've run through this 20 times, it works perfectly, and then they'll be like,
and they break it in 5 minutes. Yeah.
Right?
Oh, good Lord. Don't remind me.
Well, especially if you have it seems I always have at least one tester on the team who takes it upon themselves to be like, I'm going to be a jackass and do it exactly how I know you don't want it done. And I say jackass in the most loving of ways. I'm happy they do it. But it's always like, oh, you would find that right away, like the way the player would do that incorrectly.
Must be nice to have testers.
That is one of the benefits of having a popular mod. The other side of that coin is that this amount of time we have to spend on support is way higher.
I got to twist arms just for people to tell me what they think of my cells, much less test the quests.
Yeah, that's always a battle. I think we even have that, even though we have testers, like, not all, often the times, like I'll have 10 people have signed up for testing, and 2 or 3 of them at any given time will be active, and that's it's a constant struggle to get people to try stuff out. I think people are just mostly excited to just get in there and play the final product. And one of the things that I'm not sure how to deal with this, and it's kind of a concern at a greater level, but it's also it's good from a gaming perspective, is the fact that there's so much amazing free content put out by AAA studios now that we're almost competing with them. Like, it used to be that mods were kind of on this different level of, they cost nothing, so we get a unique audience, and that, like, you're going to have people that are just like, they want to get as much out of their games as possible without spending any money, so you can get these dedicated audiences. Well, now we're not unique in that space anymore. Like, modding is no longer the only source of free gaming, or not the only source of like free high quality gaming, I should say, because you could always find like free online games and stuff, but they were a little wonky or simple. But now, and then modding was like, you could get advanced experiences within your existing games. Now you've got Apex and Fortnite, and like just tons of game, and League of Legends, and these games going into the space of AAA that are completely free, and so we're essentially competing with them for people's time.
I would say I would agree on most regards, but I think there's one important aspect you're forgetting here, is that people who use sim settlements can engage you and talk to you and the development team. And these other people, these AAA mods, these are foreign entities to them, from cradle to grave, from buying it or to downloading it to getting bored with it. And, you value feedback, it's a smaller community, yeah, but, and you inspire other modders, whereas these other AAAs, it's consume. So
sure.
I don't sell yourself short. I think you're.
Oh, I was getting at
maybe
it
not sell yourself short, but I don't think your audiences completely intersect here.
Right, I agree with that, but I guess I was getting more to the point of the fact that where we might, if you 5 years ago, before all the crazy amount of free games were available, I would say there would be less people. Those people who are fans of our stuff would be spending even more time on it, as opposed to like now their time is divided between other free activities they can do.
Oh yeah, a lot of testers I have that I'll send them something, go, but I don't have Fallout installed right now. And what? Right. What are you kidding me? How could you not have Fallout installed?
Yeah, it's just for me. I perpetually have the latest Fallout and the latest Elder Scrolls installed at all times, even if I don't intend on playing it anytime soon. It's got to be ready to go.
Oh geez, I don't have the latest. When is my F? I gotta look. I'm looking right now when my executable.
Oh, I don't mean version. I mean
is.
as in before Fallout 4 came out, I had New Vegas installed at all times, even if I wasn't ready to play it.
Oh, September 11th, 2018. Man, I'm way behind.
So it's probably. I mean, I'm sure you've logged into the Fence Sheriff Department many times since September.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I'm talking about the actual executable, the Creation Club updates and stuff. That's the last time I updated. Oh well, oops.
Yeah. I think there was just an update a couple days ago, and man, the F4SE team and all the mod authors for that, who do good stuff with that, are like on the ball with their updates. They had everything.
I heard about that.
They got everything. Scrivener, almost everything's updated already, and I think the patch came out on Wednesday, so it's like 2 days, and they're already
pretty
done.
Amazing for like an update that was out of the blue after a couple months. I'm very impressed.
Yeah. And it's unfortunate that eventually that won't always be the case. Like eventually, somebody out there who's got an important mod
is going to drop the ball, but through real life,
Right. Or it's going to have been like, okay, I'm officially done. Like, sorry, I don't have time for this anymore. And that's, they should be able to do
all we can
that.
do is hope they give the password and the reins over to somebody else.
Right.
That's
really going to be the hope. Yeah, I agree. Hopefully they will. I know Registrator 2000 has started figuring out how to automate builds of his stuff, because 90% of the time, the updates that come out, all that needs to change is a version number in the DLLs. But man, there's...
He said something about an offset to me once or something like that. Just like he made it sound like a number, and that was it.
Right.
That he had to change. It was like elementary for him to do it, but he had to do it manually.
Yeah, it would be. It's and I don't know. The thing is I know Bethesda doesn't need to change their EXE. I think the only reason they do is I think it's required for. It's probably required for console. Maybe Steam even requires it, that some sort of version number increments. But man, if they had, it's a shame that they didn't prepare for this, like, in a way that like knowing that their community relies so heavily on it. I think the unfortunate reality is that those of us who use F4SE are a tiny minority of their overall community. Like
they are. I mean, you gotta think about. I mean, there's a lot of modders who. Or not modders, but the modding community gets up in arms and say, why didn't Bethesda listen to us? Why didn't Bethesda, why don't they do this? We're demanding this. We're 1 out of every 10 of the users out there.
Right. I mean, right. And then like F4, that's probably we're 1 out of 10 just on PC. And then there's an even smaller chunk of F4SE users. Because I know a lot of people, even mod authors who will not play with F4SE because they don't want to deal with the breakage. And this was even before the Creation Club was a thing. They were just like, I don't want to deal with having to mess up my mods and have my mod order fall apart.
I just copy my executable and don't update for apparently 5 months running now. But looking at the date on my exceptable, but
I try and do what you did there, but I stopped doing that and I started updating more regular, sometimes I won't update immediately, but like within a few weeks, just because I want to make sure I'm playing with the same stuff my users are, so that way.
Exactly, you're a major dev, so I mean, you got to make sure that when somebody registers a complaint, you're on the same page as they are, stuff like that.
Right, so it becomes a challenge to like play with you. But yeah, as a player, I want to just keep a version that works, because it's like, all right, everything's stable now. I can safely load into this game that has 100 hours in on it, and it won't be broken.
I must have like 7 programs I have to update every time there's an F4SE update. It gets to be a pain in the butt. That's why I just copied and let it sit.
Yeah, it's such a shame. This is something I'm in battle with all the time, and I get both sides of the argument. But it's really a shame we don't have better mod management software that would do things more like a pack, like where it would just be like you just push a button and it would update all your mods. Because it's
you could kind of say register your F4SE dependent mod with a central database and download a pack of F4SE dependent mods with the F4SE update. But
right,
but we don't have. It was require somebody to take initiative.
Well, I think there's pseudo support for it in Vortex. I think the problem that they're always having with anything that resembles a mod pack, like anything that resembles the player not having to go to the mod page, is a dicey thing, because a lot of mod authors feel like they're not getting they're not getting credit. Like if a player goes and downloads a pack of mods or downloads all their updates at once, they're very unlikely are they going to go read the details of each individual mod. And so they're going to give credit to if they download a mod pack, they're going to give credit to the person who assembled the pack. And if they just download all the updates en masse, they're not going to read any important notes that the mod authors have for them. So I get why mod authors would fight that, but I think I've always been of the mindset that it's more important that the users have a good experience so that they keep coming back, and that if it requires us to change the way we develop to support such a thing, then we should do that. You know what I mean? Like if for example, one of the things I will see sometimes when people release a new version of a mod where they want users to read it will be if they changed form IDs. Well, that should just be a no-no. You should just never change form IDs and instead, invalidate some of your old ones where you don't use them anymore and then implement a new one. Something like just best practices I think would emerge if we lived in a world where, where updates were done automatically. Like I think people would just would learn to deal with that reality instead of forcing it into the old way, which is a bad user experience.
Yeah, but you're also dealing with mod authors with egos too, and individuals.
Right. But I think they hold those egos because they learned best practices in that era before there was such possibility. Like the software didn't exist at the time to do anything like that. Now it can be, and users expect it. Like, because every piece of software, like nobody would accept, for example, like let's use World of Warcraft an example, which has got like a dozen expansions now, or however many. I'm sure I'm exaggerating, but it has a lot now. Imagine if you had to go manually download a new update for each of the expansions, like every time one came out. Like nobody.
Well, that's not hard to do. I just imagine what happens when F4SE updates.
Right, exactly. And then you don't want to deal with it. So I'm just saying is that most that they don't do that because they know it would turn players off to the point where they would be like, "Oh, screw it, I'm not going to bother." Well, the same thing happens in the mod community. There's a lot of players who are just like, "Nah, I didn't bother getting your update because it was too much work." There's nothing. There's almost nothing we can do about it unless somebody develops a piece of software that can handle all of that. And that's where something like the mod managers would come into play. And I think if they started doing that and like mod authors got used to the fact that players are expecting that, then either those mod authors would either adjust and prepare for that eventuality, or they would die. Like people wouldn't use their stuff anymore because they'd be like, it's too frustrating to use your stuff.
I agree. They're already preparing for F4SE itself, aren't they?
Right.
So, what's one more step?
Yeah. So I don't know. So I've always been of the mind of pushing toward that. We need to just make it simpler on users, especially because if we want, like, I don't know about you, but I am much happier when my mods have more downloads than less downloads. Like, I don't do it specifically for the downloads, but I like it more when I get more downloads. Would you agree with that?
Oh, yes. Definitely.
So, and I think one of the ways we get more downloads is to make modding simpler. And I think that was something huge Bethesda did for us by integrating a mod downloader right into the game.
Yeah, I agree. That I do like how Bethesda is very open to working with modders, and they realize how given and easily modding works with the Gamebryo engine too. You just have to drop a loose file in there and change your INI file, and everything works seamlessly versus some of the other games where there's only some things that are possible.
Yeah, it's pretty nuts how moddable these games are. Like
it is.
Replace
the Bethesda
basically
games is insane.
Any file you want, you can just dink around with it. Like there's no checksumming or anything like that. Just like whatever you want to edit, go for it.
You just drop the loose file in the right spot most of the time.
Most of the time, yeah.
Yeah.
There's a few exceptions, but and then those anytime we run into that most of the time, then the F4SE team swoops in and fixes that too.
And whether or not they support you or not, Bethesda doesn't discourage modding.
Right. I mean, I was shocked with. I know you said when I mentioned before we started, I mentioned 76, and you're like, oh, I don't really follow that. Even with 76, you can screw up the files on your local machine, and they don't really do anything about it, which is pretty crazy. Yeah. I mean, I think I'm sure there are exceptions, and I think that may have changed since I haven't played 76 in a while. The game lost me pretty quickly, but I was dinking around and replacing files, and I never got in trouble. I think there have been some bannings from it, but I can't imagine it would be directly from modding files. There's only a few things I could think you could do that would really be cheaty in that game, and maybe it'll become more of a thing if they get more hardcore with their PvP stuff. But for the most part, the game is like it's a single player game that you can group up with people. Like it's not so like
Yeah.
even if you're cheating, it's not. There's only so much cheating you can do. It's not like you can just drop. You can't make like a new weapon record and drop it in. That won't work. But you can like replace art assets and replace UI files, replace sound files, and it all seems to just work, which is shocking for an online game.
That's the big thing about the online games, though, because if you want to put a new weapon in the game, everybody has to share that asset. Everybody in that session would have to have the resources on their hard drive, and I could see modding is going to get difficult. And they're supposed to release or authorize or support private servers.
Yeah,
one of these days, and that's what it's going to take. Everybody in the session is going to have to be on parity, at least with the gameplay change mods, if not the texture mods and stuff like that.
Right. Yeah. My assumption is they're going to have something where you connect to the server and it automatically downloads all the mods to your computer that the server has.
Yeah.
That's what that's what I would do if I were them, like to set something up like that, and that would be awesome because but it does introduce that problem, the ego problem that
about to say that's one step towards the all-in-one mod pack, get everyone on parity with each other.
Right. And my bet is that the Bethesda.net modding agreement basically requires you to accept that reality.
Yeah. They will push mods, and that's just the way you have to do when you sign up to a server. Right. I'm wondering how the private servers will shake out, and if there's going to be private mods supported too, but we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. It's interesting. I'm definitely not like looking to jump right in on that right away because I wasn't enthralled with 76. Like, even though we both keep saying we don't play the game much, I still loved Fallout 4. Like, absolutely loved the game. I'm playing it again right now, loving it again. And whereas 76, I never had that feeling, so I'm not inspired to mod it. Even though the idea of modding a multiplayer 4 does appeal, or like modding a multiplayer Fallout does appeal to me. I think I'd probably like let other people who are more passionate about the game take the lead, and then I'll stand on their shoulders if I'm going to get into modding it.
Yeah, fully agree. I like the single player experience myself too. You move at your own speed.
Yeah, there's no rushing, and you don't feel like no one can kind of ruin any experience you're creating. So if you decide to you're going to just spend your time dicking around and not doing this, there's nobody rushing you, or
nobody's going to shoot you in the head from behind.
Right. You can control when the enemies are coming at you. Like you get the pause button in your Pip-Boy.
It's a real pause button, yeah.
Yeah. One unlike the online. Although I have been tempted to try out the Fallout Souls mod in one of these playthroughs where you lose the pause feature, so you can't just like use your Pip-Boy as an emergency stop button in combat.
Oh, dear Lord, I remember that game. That game was pure evil. Oh.
Yeah, I tend to not enjoy games that are excessively difficult, but I think in my latest playthrough of Fallout 4, I've got it so modded that it's too easy to where and anybody who watches my playthrough is like, you're full of crap, kinggath, you die like every 10 seconds. I think I'm dying because of the way I'm playing. I'm trying to do like a melee character in light armor, so just because it's fun. But the game itself is not particularly difficult. It's just that the enemies are bullet spongy.
I find it's more interesting, like maybe through level 10 through level 50, and I almost always run with a 1/3 XP modifier mod, and I find it makes it more fun. It takes a lot longer between levels, but you can die a lot longer before you start destroying everything in your path.
And then your skill choices would be really important then.
Yep.
Yeah, that sounds like a cool way to play, because it does seem almost like I all the time will just take stupid skills because it's like, oh, it doesn't matter, I'm gonna level up again in 20 minutes. So
exactly, you reach a certain threshold, and then everything you just crush everything in your path, and that's when the game stops being fun.
Yeah, well, I think we all agree with that, but don't agree with it. You know what I mean? Like it's one of those things where we have to trick ourselves because.
Because
like, I want to be super
is still
powerful.
Frustrating.
Yeah, or I want to be super powerful, but then when you get too powerful, then it's like, oh, I ruined the game.
And then when you get killed, you're like, God damn it, I hate this game. But you kind of want being killed as being a risk.
Right. Yeah.
It's a love-hate relationship.
It is, and it's an interesting balance you can play. But I think that's why a lot of Bethesda game players tend to do exactly what we both talked about of we start the game more often than we finish it, is just because there's something about that early game where it's a challenge. And you have the open-endedness of like, I can take my character in whatever direction I want. and like that feeling is the real fun.
It is nice.
So yeah,
I usually go for the sniper.
Yeah, that's what I tend to do, and that's why I'm like, I'm gonna do exactly opposite that. I'm gonna go no stealth, full guns a blazing, but then I'm like, let's do melee too, so I'm right in there. And
Hulk
it's just,
smash.
Yeah, eventually I'm gonna need power armor to pull off such a playthrough.
If you do an unarmed one, just punch them to death.
Just punch them to death. Yeah, that might be. Although I found, so the reason I got into melee is because I immediately found a wrench, a pipe wrench, and as you can see on my icon, I have an affinity for the pipe wrench. So and then I found a mod. Somebody took all of the concept art versions of the characters, which is what my icon is. It's Sturgis's concept art.
Yeah.
They did looks menu presets for them, so I was able to use Face Ripper, and so now my character in game looks exactly like my icon, and I just run around with a pipe wrench, and it's fantastic. But that novelty is going to wear off at some point, and then maybe I'll go Power Fist and Power Armor.
I thought Dogtooth was telling me once that he made a character that didn't eat anything except Nuka-Cola and Dandy Boy apples the entire game. And he made it a challenge. he couldn't, no stim packs.
Oh, wow.
no chems, yeah.
Only,
just Dandy Boy apples and Nuka-Cola.
Just sugar products only. Oh,
yeah.
Man. Oh, that's funny. That is fun how that's why a lot of those mods exist, like the Fall Souls, of just like, how else can we make this more challenging and difficult? Because the actual difficulty modifiers in the game, I think, just make the game straight worse. Like going to hard or what's the last difficulty level? Not survival.
Survival.
I thought there
or
was
very hard.
Is there very hard? Yeah. Is that all they do is just make the enemies more bullet spongy? It's like, that's not fun.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
No, survival's the only one that really truly alters the gameplay. And then you're really happy to have that food when you get back to your settlement. Trust me.
I've always just found that survival gameplay in modern games now just bores me now. Like I just get tired of managing my inventory of food. Like I'm fine with having extra resources and whatnot, but I want them all to have like, just make my character eat and drink on his own. I don't want to micromanage that. Like I'm fine if like part of the gameplay. There's got to be a mod
for that.
Oh, I'm sure there is. I'm just in general, I think that trope is overused now. Like it's become, people joke about how battle royales are every game. I think survival are every game, and it's getting boring. Of like every game now, I have to worry about having enough food and water, and I'm tired of it. So, doing it in Fallout 4 does not.
How did your character die? He forgot to eat.
He forgot to eat. What a moron.
Intelligence 10. He forgot to eat.
Oh, that could be the buff you get. If your intelligence is over 4, he'll eat on his own. Otherwise, you've got to manage it.
Mod idea.
Yeah. I do miss the low intelligence thing that they always did in Obsidian games, where you would have those really dumb responses, and apparently they're bringing that back for Outer Worlds, of where if you have like intelligence 1, you just talk like a Neanderthal. Like,
awesome.
me no fight you.
I see a second playthrough coming on that one.
I actually am surprised somebody hasn't done that for Fallout 4, of just like especially now that we have like silent protagonist and full dialogue interface. There's no reason you couldn't just add more options to the dialogue choices. I guess it would be a lot of work now that, now you started playing around with some of the dialogue interface. It's a lot of work.
It's a pain in the butt now. They added the freaking PC dialogue, the audio files. I was imagining how nice it must have been to mod in Fallout New Vegas when all the player dialogue was just text. You could make them say whatever you wanted.
Yeah, I had to make it go a lot quicker in that regard, and then you just had to, especially if you're using custom voice actors for your other things. One of the things, the other one is sometimes we've been wanting to add scenes with some of the existing characters, and like even that's a giant pain in the butt, because then you have to manipulate around the player dialogue and the companion or whoever you want to interact with, and it's pretty tough. It's pretty tough to write.
When you throw in a third or fourth actor, it just gets to be a pain in the butt to keep track of them all too.
Yeah. So I think for the most part, like our writers have given up on that idea of like, especially with companions, because then you have to do it for like 13 characters of like, all right, how is this character going to respond to that? How about this character? It's like, okay, no, we're not going to do that.
I imagine that'd be awful.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's what Bethesda does, which is crazy to me. Like when you look at...
you think about how few voice lines a player hears in the playthrough versus how many are recorded. It's insane.
Right. Like they have to come up with all those eventualities, and Like most of the main game quests and even a lot of the side quests have scenes built in where their companion will chime in, and so they had to like think up and write up extra lines for all of those, even though most players will never see them.
Yep. Most of the good companion mods have those kind of eventualities built in too, I've noticed.
Yeah, which is, oh man, yeah. If you look at like what are the two big ones? The cartographer, I can't think of their names. Heather,
I think
Helen. Yeah.
Damn it!
I think it's Heather and Ellen are the two big ones.
I
think both of those have more lines of dialogue than the vanilla player does. Like they've put in so much effort into those.
Yeah, those are really good mods. I liked Helen. The cartographer was a really good idea for a companion too. I mean, that's right there, the story. You take them all over, and there's a reason for it.
Right. Yeah. Very, very clever use of that. Man, I love seeing the creativity come out with mods, and I think that's why one of the reasons when I wake up in the morning and I go on Nexus, which I used to. So I don't know about you, but when I'm playing the game, I get addicted to checking for new mods. And so like I remember it when modding first started hitting the scene I think the first mods started coming out within days after Fallout 4 came out. But it was right around like April 2016 or so, or right around when the Creation Kit came out. Then the modding scene like blew up, and there was just nonstop updates. It's so exciting, but I think that's one of the reasons that when I get on there, and it's just weapon and boobs, I get so disappointed because it's those days when those extra special mods come out with like those big companion mods or like big overhaul mods like Frost. When those come out, it's so exciting.
That's the stuff that people took the time to work on. You can tell.
Yeah,
and it's kind of, I've noticed the mods are ebbing and flowing for Fallout 4 recently.
And as they should. I mean, like you said, if people are putting in the time, it's going to take a while before they produce, and there's only going to be so many people willing to do that. And actually, one of the reasons I want to talk to you is I think you are one of those people willing to do that, and it's very refreshing to see more people in that space of like, and like you don't have a ton of mods released as far as in that vein, but I can tell that's the direction you're going to be going with all your mods going forward. So I'm excited to see your name on the release schedule now.
I like to make them deep. It's more than wide. I was telling Demanding the other day, she's decorating the player home in that Bleachers mod.
Okay.
She works for the Sim Settlements staff. That I kind of go for coverage and not acreage.
Sure.
And I like more like Red Rocket TV. Have you ever seen his player homes?
I have seen a few of them. Yes, he started releasing them as mods now, right? Because he used to just do them on YouTube. Yep.
And he started releasing them as home, but his are very rich. There's something in every corner, something to find around every bend, and that's the kind of stuff I appreciate. Even though I realize the average player is just going to race through the cell anyway. But
right.
As you'll see in the videos, the actual land coverage of the Sven Sheriff's Department and the Bleachers is not tremendous, but sure. I try to go for just raw depth of coverage and making the cell actually look lived in and part of the FO4 environment.
I think it's one of those things though, like even though most players rush through it, I think they still know that they know the difference. It's just like that thing with the throwing weapons. Like when the spinning's gone, you notice, and when the people don't put the full detail into a space, they notice. They might not appreciate each individual detail, but they will notice when it's not there. And so
when you go through an internal cell, you go through an internal cell and there's no litter in the corner or something, it
feels wrong. It just doesn't.
Most people don't notice it's not the litter in the corner. I do because I built enough internal cells. But yeah, you're right. Something is just not right, and they notice. If it's done right, they don't notice that it's gone until it's gone.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Our sound guy on Sim Settlements, Dell, always talks about this with sound. He said this is one of the great and terrible things about being a sound guy is like if you're doing your job, no one notices.
Nobody notices it.
Right.
You do
if
perfectly.
You're failing, then you're doing if you're failing, they notice. But if you're doing your job, they don't notice your stuff at all, and that's what you have to aim for.
He's right. He's completely right.
I think environmental art is the same way. It's like if you're doing your job, then no one will pay attention to your work.
It's kind of like being an offensive lineman in football.
Sure. Yeah. If you're sucking, people get pissed. But if you're doing your job, you're getting no props.
Exactly. The quarterback gets protected. The quarterback gets the props. The quarterback gets sacked. You get yelled at.
Right. Yeah, that's the unfortunate reality of it. But I mean, it's awesome to see. And I think it really matters in the long term of this. Like when we're planning out our stuff for Sim Settlements, we're always looking at it from the perspective of like people will be playing this game for probably 5 or 6 more years, like before even after Fallout 5 comes out, people will still come back and play this. But we were looking at it, even if we just looked at it from the perspective of like, and if we were just going to worry about people playing up through Fallout 5, based on the release schedule Bethesda's announced, we'd probably figure another 5 years before we get another Fallout title. So like looking at it from that perspective, people are going to keep seeing this over and over again, and they're only going to they're like the people who are going to prune out their mod list. So right now there's like 30,000 mods for Fallout 4. In 5 years, there'll be like 100,000. So people are not going to play with all of those mods. They're going to play with, the top couple of hundred. So like
the ones that are kept supported too.
Right.
Where the mod authors are still around.
So we're looking at it from like, let's flesh all this out. Let's get all that depth in, knowing that somebody, even though, maybe our initial experiences we're releasing are a little, we cut a few corners to hit some release dates or something. We want to go back and do all that so that somebody who comes back, in a few years and is like, hey, I want to get ready for Fallout 5 and play Fallout 4 modded, they're going to still be blown away, and our mods will continue to be on their list of like, I got to have that. So like, I think, the effort you're putting into something like Fence Sheriff Department will give it that long shelf life and like make people keep wanting to come back to it.
Oh yeah, I plan on adding a lot of quests. I was going to do type of like modular quests, like say the bleachers. There's some mailboxes in the residential section, and when I upgrade that mod and add more quests, I plan on having like the mailbox, the quest giver. Random citizens will ask the player for help and stuff like that, so you can upgrade the quest pretty easily.
Okay,
by keeping the cell the same though. Stuff that.
You can keep reusing the space and get more and more content out of it.
I hope so. That's a plan at least.
Well, yeah, that'll be cool. It'll make it like a nice little quest hub and whatnot.
Yep.
So now you have. So I asked this to you when you initially sent me these videos about does this work with Diamond City expansion, and you said yes, it does. So that's very exciting.
Yeah, I've been. I've sent some messages to the author of Diamond City expansion. He responded to my first one, but he hasn't responded since.
Stats, get on him.
Yes,
get responding,
please,
buddy.
Stats. I love your mod. Let's talk compatibility. I'm not trying to work. I'm not trying to control your mod. I just want to make sure we're compatible, buddy.
When he was on the podcast, he said he's finally ready to work with other mod authors because he wants to do some stuff that he doesn't know how to do yet. Like, in fact, he mentioned he has some ideas for quest stuffs to add to that. So it sounds like you guys would be a great team then right now.
Yeah, I have the Fenn Sheriff's Department. It's funny you mention it. And going in that vein, I have specifically made a cell that stretches between a location in Diamond City expansion called the Grand Junction. There's a red door that leads to the Fenn's administration, quote unquote, but it's not accessible currently in Stats Mac 10.
Right.
So I kind of took the liberty, and in my own mod, there's a service tunnel that goes from that door to the Fenn Sheriff's Department.
Ah, cool. So
I'm a big fan of that mod. There's not much I can do to say, hey, work with me, but at least I can make mine compatible with his.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and you guys could do scripted sequences where it would be like, if both mods are installed, then change the teleport link to that door to go to the cell instead.
Yeah, definitely. I was talking to Thuggy Smurf about that. There's, you'd probably know the scripts you can run maybe with global variables that'll be set, and it'll sense if Diamond City expansion is installed, then put that door and set that as the teleport destination.
Right. Yeah, we can have absolutely can script stuff like that. That's one of the things like I always want to do. Like we're with Sim Settlements, obviously that's being my primary project. Thinking about it long term, about how all the things are going to work together. And like I'd love to see more of that happen within the community with all these world space mods. Of like, I know there's already some of it that happens. Like you will see often when other people start tackling interior mods, they will be like, I made sure not to touch any of the cells that Beantown Interiors does. To where like over time we start to get to we all start to want to be compatible with each other. And so like there's going like then I think the next step after that in the late life of Fallout, and this probably happened in Skyrim, but I never was involved enough in that scene to know. But I would love to see if we started all tying our mods together. That was so like, you know, they like somebody could install all these different mods with quests and world space stuff, and they would all just intricately tie together nicely.
It would be amazing. I'm not sure about tying quests together. That'd be a tall.
No,
order.
not tying necessarily the quest, but at least the world spaces and
definitely.
Like I know
Absolutely.
one of the things I can't remember which is which, but which of the companions did Llama do? Was it Heather or Ellen? I can't remember which one.
I don't remember. I
know Llama took the time to make her companion comment on popular mods, which was like, oh my god, that's amazing.
Oh really?
Yeah, and I was like, oh man, I really appreciate that, and like want to see more like that of where you know, mods would recognize each other and just add little bonuses or you know, have actual overt references to things that were in them.
Oh, that's a good idea, because some of the dialogue I have in Center Field already, or the Bleachers project, I have 2 merchants in there that are custom dialogue and give you the quests, and you know, you screw up one of the missions, say you already know one of them is a Brahmin escort. If the Brahmin gets killed, then the other merchant will comment upon how you lost that Brahmin and say now they have to eat cat tacos that week instead of real tacos, stuff like that.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, way to go, loser. You just killed his Brahmin. Now I can't get a real food this week, stuff like that.
That's awesome. So did you have any type of art background or anything coming into this? Or like a design?
No, I'm a scientist, actually. I'm a molecular virologist. All this is learned on the fly as I went along. I like modding because another reason I like modding and versus playing, it's raw creative output. You know, it's a world you go, this is how I want to make it. And as long as you're willing to work within the confines of that world, you can make it whatever you want.
Yeah. And I feel the same way. And I haven't done a ton of world space building, but I feel that way about systems, is that like whatever you can dream up in this game, you can make it happen. You just have to put the time in and be willing to kind of experiment and learn.
Yep. And I mean, and you just learn more as you go along. And I think elegance also is kind of the key. The shortest route between 2 points is part of what science taught me, but I've noticed with your modding, like say with you, when you redo sim settlements from the ground up, everything functions faster and better. Or you redo code, you learn as you go along. And then like say for the stained glass, I did the stained glass a year and a half ago initially, those textures, but then you know, you go back 6 months later and you went, wow, I've learned so much and I can really improve this.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's part of what I enjoy about modding. Well, it's a double-edged sword, because you go back and you go, what in the hell was that?
Oh yeah.
Now I got to redo all of this.
Yeah, that's such that's a huge thing for programmers, is like you ask any programmer to look at their work from a year ago and they cringe because they're just like, what was I thinking?
This 3 pages could have been done with just this one function. What the hell?
Right. Yeah, that is a huge thing with sim settlements, is that like as we go and I start developing more and I learn more, I'm like, oh, I'm an idiot. Like I shouldn't have designed it this way. And then it's like, all right, but now fixing it is going to take like hundreds of hours. Whereas if I had done it right in the first place, this would only be a 20-hour project or whatever.
Yep, so I feel you.
I see the double-edged sword, but I personally am willing to do it. The problem is always like I see players getting impatient with it, of where it's just like, why haven't you fixed this yet? And it's like, well, you know, it seems simple on the surface. It's a small thing, but if I just take a hammer to it and fix it, it's gonna break everybody's saves. You know what I mean? Like stuff like that.
I apologize for those Dick Fours, those kind of users.
I mean, I think most people are actually pretty cool, mostly in the sim settlements community, especially. Like we, part of it is that we pruned out the people that were, you know, coming on and demanding things. It was like block, like we just, you know, this is our free time. Like, you know, like I respect. One of the things I have in modding is I try and be respectful of players as long as they're respectful to me, because I understand that they have limited time to play games, and so if my mod causes their save to break or, you know, gives them a bad time, then I wasted their time effectively. So I get where the rage comes from. But at the same time, I expect them to respect the fact that like I have to live my life. Like I can't base my life around, you know, your gaming experience. Like I'm going to give you as much time as I can afford, but at some point it's like, you know, we've got to have a mutually beneficial relationship here. Like you give me those thumbs up and I'll give you working code.
I try to recognize the diverse demographic that you're trying to please too. And, you know, the squeaky wheels that are complaining, some of them probably are 8-year-old kids and they're used to getting their way every time.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah. And so
you never know who's complaining and why they complain.
Right. It's usually easy to identify the kids just from grammar, but yeah, sometimes. Yeah, I try to be as patient as possible because again, I get it. Like I would be pissed too if like I installed a mod and it ruined my save or something. But it does because of all that experience I have dealing with that of like trying not to break people's saves. When I go back through and find one of those issues that's going to be like, all right, it's going to take me a couple 100 hours to do, I'm going to put the time in. It just might take me a long time. Like it might be like, I can't put in, you know, my next 200 hours of mod time into this thing. Otherwise I'm going to burn out and get bored. Like I have to intersperse that 200 hours time with stuff that interests me. Like where I'm learning new things. So like I will do it. I promise I will get to it. It just might take me months because I have to stay motivated. And, like if you
understand, we started the conversation like that. I work on what I want to when I want to, and I understand that fully. It's the users. They've never made a mod. They don't understand that you got it. It's self motivation.
Right. Yeah, well, I think that they're looking at it from the same perspective. I mean, the same thing happens even in AAA game dev. Like if you'll play a game, especially in online games, it'll be like they'll put out patches that like fix X, and they're like, or add this, and this. And like, why didn't those developers go work on this? Well, first of all, it's never the same developer. It might be like the developer that knows about that particular thing is busy working on the next game. And they just haven't had the time to do it. So it's not always the same people. So like I think this complaint of like, why aren't these things addressed happens no matter what. Like it's just a matter of different people have
you'll never please everybody. Yeah.
Right. And like some people, like different people are going to have different priorities, like different features that are very like they're world consuming to that player or that small group of players. But to the majority of players, it's like, whatever, like it doesn't matter. And so like, I think there's always going to be that, like, even if it wasn't just the hobby or self-motivation, I think there's just like, you know, there's finite resources and man hours and manpower, and, you know, you got to choose your battles. So
I choose the battles that are fun.
Yeah. Now,
That's just what I do.
Do you go back and like how do you handle bug reports and stuff? Like I know there are probably far less in a, you know, like workshop mods or like throwing weapons, but
I am horrible.
Okay.
I am horrible unless there's a mod killing update within like mod killing problem with like the first week of a release. I'll be honest, I think I've yet to update except for maybe the left field diner.
Okay. So what are the type of things that you would consider? Now, are you talking about things like game breaking, like they cause crashes or they're unusable?
Yeah.
Or?
Say the throwing weapon mod.
Sure.
One of them was one of the blades was going right through a player. It wasn't embedding. That's something you got to fix right away.
Okay.
I have the dog meat and strong armor, which was a collaboration, but the person who did the quest is no longer working on the mod, so I've kind of had to adjust. So what I did for that was I just kind of released, too much to my chagrin, released just the armor as a constructible at the chem workbench without the quests.
Got it.
And you know, anything that keeps people from enjoying what I've envisioned the mod to be.
Yeah.
And I think what's really important when you make a mod is what the mod author envisions it to be. If you go to the Nexus mod author, speaking of throwing weapons, if you go to the Nexus mod author's Discord chat, there's a user called Ophelia that is working on a throwing weapons mod herself, and she's making it primary weapons.
Okay.
And she is working on throwing animations that are absolutely outstanding. And she's been doing some really good stuff. Maybe you should interview her too. But the reason she's been flagging me, and she's been doing primary weapon mods. So hopefully when she gets her mod done, And she's doing custom animations too. So when you get the mod done, hopefully we can use VATS with the throwing weapons.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, that was a major limitation of my throwing weapon mod.
I will happily interview any mod author that releases quality stuff. So
oh yeah,
once she gets it out, I'll definitely if you want to put her in contact with me, I would love to talk to her. Especially, I think I've talked to anybody. I mean, I talked to the Rizzler last week, who's an animator, but animators are like unicorns in this community.
They are, but I've heard legendary things about the Rizzler's tutorial, and this Ophelia modder, she used Rizzler's tutorial to create the throwing weapon animations.
Oh, that's fantastic! So, right? He's going to be happy to hear that, because like that's one of those things. I think most people who envision modding immediately in their head are like, I got a cool idea for a weapon, with no idea how to approach it, and it's so many steps. I mean, I think Rizzler's all his tutorials
I've
are
heard,
like 15 hours.
He's done a very, very comprehensive tutorial by all accounts.
Yeah.
But as we were talking about, your vision for the mod is important. Her vision for the mod is just, some people are complaining about the way that the knife stabs for melee versus throwing, and I'm like, you got to be kidding me. Don't worry about that. This when the person is armed with a knife in your mod and they stab the way you want them to.
Sure.
Quit worrying about it and make your mod.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, if there's the updates that I do when they first come out, what I could call a deal breaking bug would be anything that's really functional deal breaking, or something that does not make the mod what I want it to be.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Say, if I were to release a throwing weapon mod and the slowdown for some reason wasn't working, that would be a panic button. I would have to update. But
sure.
It's not like I avoid updating. It's just I'm very ADD when it comes to modding, and I guess I'll get to it one day. No promises, people. Sorry.
Well, I mean, most like what I find when I tend to go, because I mean I have a lot of mods that I'm keeping up with now. What ends up being is I want a particular feature. I want to add a particular feature to a mod, and then during that time is when I'll go back and fix a lot of the little issues. Like for example, Workshop Plus has not been getting as many updates as my other mods. It's because I'm not working on stuff that's related to that. But as soon as I have something that I really want to get into that and I focus on it, then all of a sudden I'll go back and clean up all the stuff that surrounds it.
Yeah, you get under the hood and you kind of do a little bit of reverse engineering and figure out what the hell you were thinking back then.
Yeah.
And that's a prime time to update.
Right, because if I just I think it's the modding is so complex when you start trying to learn new stuff that if you were to try and just like go back in for 10 minutes on something you worked on 6 months ago, it's not going to work. Like you're not going to know what you were doing.
Well, especially your mods. You gotta remember, mine are just throwing weapons or some armor. Yours are like huge frameworks and ensembles and game playing.
Yeah, the code pool is a little deep. It's like 20,000 lines of code. Where did I put that?
My throwing weapon code is a couple hundred lines deep.
Still, it's not a non-starter to go in and mess with it. Like you still are going to take. Yeah. It's going to take you, probably a better part of an hour to make any change, just to make sure you don't break something, and so that you have an idea of where it is you got to make that change. So it's a commitment to make an update. Like it's not just like you can do it in 5 seconds. Like it's always a commitment to go update a mod. And then there's also this is non-trivial too, especially if you put your mods on Xbox, is the update time. Like you've got to make your change, then you have to package it all up, and then upload it to at least 3 sites if you want to get it to the majority of people. You got to get it to Nexus, and then Bethesda PC and Bethesda Xbox, and that's not a trivial amount of time. Like it takes time, and so you've got to set that aside, and then that is time taken away from something creative you could be doing.
Yeah, I find Bethesda uploads are a pain in the butt. Bethnet uploads.
Oh, I see. I find them to be pleasurable, except for the time it takes. Like it's just too slow. Like, and because you can't do multiple at once. That's my beef with it. I don't find it difficult because I've got a workflow that's really quick with it. But like with Nexus, I can just open up multiple browser tabs and start the uploads of all of my different mods at once. So that's really easy. Whereas Creation Kit, I have to like upload one at a time, wait for the PC upload to go, then start the Xbox. That sucks. But I think the actual process is no problem. Of like I just package the files directly in their Archive 2 utility.
right from Creation Kit, then you upload. I've only done it once with the Unicorn Farts mod. I've never uploaded to BethNut after that. Not that I had a bad experience, but
Yeah.
I don't know if you ever seen my mod description pages. I also like to add a little personal flair for those pages.
Yes, your
too,
pages look
especially
much nicer than mine. I get very lazy with my mod pages.
You spend more time on your mods than I do.
Yeah.
So
I think
evens
once I get to the day of release and I have to build the mod page, I'm like, I don't care. Like,
you're all burnt already.
Right, I'm burnt out. It's just like here's 10 lines about it. Like, go.
Here's Sim Settlements. Enjoy it, you bastards.
Yeah, that's one of those tasks I should probably give to an artist to do on the team.
You could. Whoever did that Conqueror's logo was spot.
That is Ruined
that?
World.
Who did
he
that?
is fantastic. I do.
I've seen some of his artwork on DeviantArt. Man, he's a really good artist.
Yeah, he's very good. It tends to be a mix. Some of I do some of the logos. I have like the original Sims 7 logo. I paid somebody to make. A friend of mine made the Rise of the Commonwealth logo, and then Ruin did the Conqueror. And then like but usually like the smaller mods, like the ones I just released today and yesterday, I did those with just by like mashing together Illustrator files that people gave me from other projects.
Yeah, I've done that a couple of times too. Just kind of make a collage too.
Yeah. Because it's fun. I actually started out like as a kid and like all through high school and like early college years, I was like focused on I was going to be an artist, and like that's where I kind of trained. But
really,
I use it so I don't use it at all anymore. Like I found programming, I'm like, nope, this was my calling. I like logical things, not.
I always wanted to be an artist, but I could tell you, I couldn't freehand for crap. I got so many sketch pads, I worn so many pencils down to nubs, and it would still look like stick figures. So I think Photoshop was a great equalizer when I discovered texturing through Fallout 4.
Oh, there you go.
Could actually get what was in my head onto some sort of media that people could see.
That's lucky of you. I find texture and color to be a massive struggle. I have so much trouble. Like I got really good at sketching. Like I learned the Disney style, the Simpsons style, like old school Warner Brothers. Like I can draw anything like those thing. But once I have to color them in, I just fall apart. And then doing realistic coloring, like doing something like either of our discard icons, like I could never do that in a million years. There's just no skill in coloration.
Yeah, see, I couldn't do any of that freehand. I need the computer to do that.
I couldn't even do it with the computer. That's what I'm saying.
I need the precious Control Z.
Yeah, that undo button is nice. If only we had that in real life. I would love that because I love sketching on paper with a pencil. Like actually, my sister recently asked me to design her a tattoo. And I'm just like doing it all pencil and paper, and she's like, you gotta make it look cleaner and nicer than that. I was like, I don't want to do. I'm using my pencil drawing. Like that's what I do. You're the one who asked me.
Hire an inker, sis.
Right. But if I had an undo button for my pencil, then I probably would sketch more.
That's pretty funny.
Maybe I need to get into one of those tablets. I've seen some of the modern tablets. They're nuts. Like where it's like the screen is all part of it. Like I remember. I used to have one of those like old Wacom tablets where it was just like you looked at the screen and kind of drew down below it, and it was hard.
Yeah, that's what I got.
It's hard to get used to that, but like those ones now with it built right into the screen, that seems like is like best of both worlds. Like where you're actually
those I've seen some. Those are huge. Some of them too.
Yeah,
I mean,
they got to be expensive
real
as hell
graphic
too.
artists. I just got one of those, the Wacom tablets that you were talking about.
Yeah. I haven't used one of those in years, but I remember it being cool. But I was always like, this is too much of a disconnect. Like I would rather just draw on paper.
Yeah, so I see where we have a difference here because I tried to draw on paper and I couldn't make anything look right. So I see why you appreciate paper.
Yeah, love me some paper. I love paper for all sorts of things. Like I have notebooks all over the place of mod notes, even though it's completely inefficient. Like I lose them all the time. Or can't remember where I wrote something, and it would make much more sense like typed up on my phone or in a Google Doc or something about paper. It just does it for me. I don't know what it is.
Oh, at least you got a system. My system is open up something as close to I can resemble a NIF scope when I think of it and go do about my day that I was normally doing. I have no real reminders. When these ideas come to me, I'm not usually modding, to be honest.
Well, that is my system, is get it out of my head as quickly as possible, because otherwise I'll try and remember it, and then I just like spend the day like repeating this idea in my head instead of like living. So if I get it onto paper, I feel like I don't have to think about it anymore. And it's like, I know I'll have it there one day. Like, just anytime I have an idea that might be good or might be terrible, whatever, just get it out of my head onto paper is the best.
Smart.
Yes.
I need to try that too.
It's been working for me. Sometimes I forget the ideas anyway, or I'll like go back over here's what what seems to happen for me when I do that is like once in a while I'll go pull out all my notebooks and go flip through them and see like, did I miss any good ideas? Almost never happens, because usually if the idea was good enough, it'll have come to me again. So like it tends to be that the ideas I put on paper ended up being crap anyway. So by putting them on paper, I didn't waste any more brain power on them, and I still felt good about it. So it works out.
That's funny. Yeah, when you get a real goldie, it kind of just doesn't leave your head anyway. The really good ideas.
Yeah, the good ideas will float back up. So, but it's sometimes I'll get one nagging me. I'm like, this is going to be the idea. It's going to be the idea, and then. As long as it's on paper, I don't feel like I'm going to forget it. And if it turns out my idea was terrible, then that it's just living on paper and it's fine.
Exactly. It's not clogging up your brain.
Right. So, unfortunately, some of the ideas take until implementation to find out they're terrible. So we've had several features I've like spent dozens of hours developing for some settlements, and then we try it and it's like, okay, well, that's terrible. That's not fun at all.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah. So I know you don't play it much, but I can explain it. One of the ideas off the top of my head that was like that. So
yeah.
With one of the expansions, we added the ability for the settlers to build the whole settlement. And what was going to happen in that originally was, instead of the settlement just building right before your eyes, I was going to have the settlers wander around and manually empty the place, like tear down every building and like clean up all the junk. And there was going to just be like animation markers of them sweeping or shoveling or hammering, and like stuff around them would start disappearing. And because of how bad the AI is and like how unreliable it is scriptifying the ground, it could take like an hour and a half for them to clean everything. I'm like, that's not fun. Like, but I took all, like, I have code that makes that work, where I can have all the settlers wander around and pick up every single item around the settlement. And some of you players are probably thinking, that sounds awesome, I want that. It's not awesome. It's really boring. It breaks a lot, and then you'll just be sitting there waiting for them to find the last item, and it's really frustrating. So we scrapped that, but not until after I built it and found out it sucked.
Yeah, we're to kinggath's players here. AI sucks in Fallout 4.
It does so much.
You can't rely on those NPCs to tie their own damn shoes most of the time.
Well, that's why I keep getting requests. So in our latest expansion, Conqueror, you get to basically have an army of raiders. Or now that we have the faction pack system out, you can do it with anybody. You get an army and you go attack settlements and stuff. And people have asked me, like, can you add like XCOM level support where I can like give them commands and stuff? It's like, nope, you just can't do it. So instead, we've balanced around the idea of your troops are disposable. Like, you're just going to lose dozens of them, and there's nothing like that. That's
funny. So. You give a settler command in Fallout 4, the immediate response is to stand still. Generally speaking, and they don't do anything.
Right. It's got the hope and pray method built into Fallout 4. So we just balance around that. We just assume that nothing's going to work. It's the same thing. I do the same thing with my quests too, or like salvage beacons. Like, I have the mod where it looks like the settlers are coming and picking up the stuff you leave for them to grab.
Yeah.
They don't actually ever grab it because I don't trust them. I'm just going to do it all on timers. It'll look like they picked it up, but they never actually do because I don't trust them.
Smart.
Yeah.
Real smart.
Unfortunate that the AI is so busted, especially because you would think like the game has so much nuance control. Like, you can do so many little detailed things in this game engine that it's strange to me that they don't have a better AI system involved in it.
You know what I found weird about the AI system? You know how the settlers have horrible time pathing and finding their way around places? You know who in the game never has a trouble finding pathing? Ghouls.
That's true.
Think about that. They don't care where you are. They'll come up. They'll find you at the top of Mass Fusion. They'll run all the way up there. But the settlers, Jesus Christ, you can't get them to wipe their own butts.
So we need to give the settlers ghoul AI, is what you're saying.
Something like that. They never have a problem finding me, the ghouls.
That's true. They're always leaping at your throat.
Exactly.
Man, that was scary the first time I played Fallout 4. Did not expect that, because every other Fallout game, they're kind of just like lazy zombies, and then all of a sudden Fallout 4, they're just like leaping at you.
Yeah, they gave them the 28 days later, the turbo zombies.
Yeah, it was quite shocking to find out. I appreciate it though. But yeah, you're right. Their pathing is like magical compared to everybody else's.
It is. They those zombies, those ghouls can find their way around anything, man. But damn, those settlers, they're idiots.
It'll be interesting to see if that's something that gets, because so like one of the things Bethesda gets a lot of crap for is that they use the same engine over and over again. And those of us who know better understand that they're just talking about their toolkit. They're talking about like the alias system. And
I know the creation engine is a huge suite. It's not there's nothing, no single standalone piece of software.
Right. And so they
That's
can
for
swap
sure.
out any individual piece of it and make it better and improve it. And they do that with each game. They add something to change it. And like we've heard in interviews that the next system they're changing is the animation system, which is exciting. But I can't wait till they change the pathing system. There's got to be a way to automate nav mesh to where it can be done in real. Like we have to have the computing power now where they can just real time calculate out proper navigation.
I hope so.
Like that's got to be
by the landscape.
So that we can have proper.
I'm glad they finally went to PBR texturing with Fallout 76, which means the next Elder Scrolls is going to have the real PBR texturing, which means Substance Painter, the kind of things that the 3D artists do will be directly translatable into the
Rizzler
game.
was trying to explain a lot of that stuff to me, and like the node-based texturing and all these things. I'm like, that stuff is so complicated to me that like it boggles my mind when I look at the details behind it, because I don't have any of the baseline knowledge. So like it's all just like, because like that stuff like Substance Painter and the node-based texturing, it's all like abstractions above the base. So if you don't have the base, like that's just like complete mumbo jumbo.
Oh, trust me, what you do is mumbo jumbo to me.
Right,
so.
right. But if you knew
everybody's good at their own thing.
Right. And it works out better for that when we all specialize. We get to team up and make cooler stuff. So like I said, if you want some help with scripting, I am always happy. This is a note to anybody out there who's modding. If you do good quality mods or mods that I use, I will probably help you with scripting. So
he's right. He's been very responsive. kinggath users. I was just a know-nothing modder until I came along with my stained glass, and he was very responsive.
Well, it's just because like the other thing you have to combat, like once you get your name out there in the modding scene, is that everybody and their mother has a mod idea they want you to build. So I'm always like, we always have to be leery of that. Like I can't say yes to everybody. I tend to like, once I know somebody's willing to put in the time and try things, then I'm much more responsive to be like, all right, well, I know this person, they probably tried already, so I'm happy to share my knowledge.
I had a guy that wanted me to retexture a booby outfit for him. He sent me screenshots that he had marked up with a pen in Photoshop of what he wanted, and
man.
Yeah, it was pretty funny. He's like, you can send me updates before you actually publish. I'm like, who are you?
I'll be your supervisor. Don't mind me.
I appreciate the detail in your work, but who in the hell are you? You want updates?
Yeah, it's tough.
It was pretty funny.
I think that's why I really appreciate the people who put out tutorials. Like I really like when Rizzler put out that weapons tutorials, I got all excited, and I try to do really detailed tutorials, and like I always am giving props to Seddon for putting out those tutorials.
Yeah, he put out that Radiant Quest one, which is exactly the tutorial that I wanted.
Oh,
Thank you very much, Seddon. Thank you, Seddon.
Yeah, Seddon just put out.
I've been using your tutorials a lot.
Right.
I use your tutorials all the time.
I think he got a lot of us started with Fallout 4 modding.
He did. Well, I would never done my first custom dialogue without Seddon, and first basic creation kit steps were under one of his tutorials too.
Yeah, same. I had done creation kit for Skyrim, but just like for some reason, just knowing that it was in the right game, I felt more comfortable going through it, because you could actually go through like Dark Fox's Skyrim tutorials and do most of that stuff in Fallout 4 and it would work. But just it feels better to just go through a tiny set of tutorials that are focused on the game I want to build in. So
yeah, what I like about Seddon is that he'll, even during his tutorials, will say, "Whoops, I wrote the wrong thing down on my notes here," which means he's going through it for the first or second time too. But he gives you confidence enough, because obviously he's confident enough to make a tutorial on it.
Right, right.
You know, how hard can this be?
Yeah.
So.
And I think he
really lays it out there.
I love that people take the time to build the tutorials, because then I think it shows, like, and like especially his, where like you said, he's opening it like, hey, I wrote the wrong thing down, I'm kind of figuring this out as I go. It makes it seem more accessible, and it really is.
It does.
Like modding is modding is complicated in the sense that I think it's only complicated in the sense that it takes a few times of trying it before it clicks. But I don't think it's particularly hard. It's generally like drag and drop and double click things and enter in numbers. Like it's not.
Yep.
None of it is
It's
particularly
it's
skill
a lot
intensive. It's just like you just.
It's 300 little different things that have to click.
Right.
Depending on what you want to do, but you're right. It's no one thing I've ever done in modding is particularly hard yet after 3 or 4 run-throughs. Even some 3ds Max work, which I am not good with, I can do a little bit of that after a few run-throughs.
Sure.
It just takes persistence.
Yeah, absolutely. I think modding is all about you have to be willing to fail. Like that's okay. That's how you get good at things.
Yeah.
You have to try.
You don't
fail.
have a formal teacher, so failure's your teacher.
Right, exactly. I think that it's persistence in you let yourself fail a lot and don't worry about it, and then it's just you keep going. You just keep tackling it and trying to learn little bits. It's a slow and steady thing. It's that old tortoise and the hare. Like there's a reason those fables exist. They're teaching you how to live life, people.
Yeah. And also reload into a very small cell when you have to start the game over and over again, people.
Oh yeah, for if you're going to be testing it. Yeah, that those QA smoke cells make the game load a lot faster.
Yeah, like or Chahani basement, those kind of cells. Yeah, they make the game load a lot faster, people.
Oh yeah, that's something I still screw up on. And I think part of it is because I have to always be in a settlement for my testing, so I have no choice but to load.
Oh dear Lord, yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah, it takes so long to load the game. I spend. I will spend any amount of money on memory upgrades and SSD hard drives to make sure I can load the game quickly because I have to load it so many times every day. And it's
oh my God, I can't imagine having to load up in a settlement. I pull my hair out when I'm forced to load up in like Hangman's Alley or something just to test a mod. I'm like, stupid, why'd you load that game up? 3 below is a smaller cell.
Oh yeah. It's funny how much faster those test cells will load up because that is one of the. I think that's where even more than persistence, you got to have patience because you're going to have to deal with the creation club or creation kit crashing occasionally, and you have to keep reloading the damn game. So it's like. And those maybe it takes a minute and a half to load the creation kit. Maybe it takes 40 seconds to load your game. When you have to do that like 50 times in a row in a day, like that, then that's, then you're talking about you burned an hour waiting. Like it can be frustrating if you don't have some patience.
Big breakthrough for me came when I got enough memory to finally run Creation Kit and Fallout 4 at the same time. Yeah, so I save on the Creation Kit, then I start the game up and see how it looks if that worked, and then I'll stop the game. But I won't have to restart Creation Kit every time.
Yeah, that's pretty key. I've had that going for a while. I have a memory upgrade sitting upstairs. I'm going to install after we're done talking today, so that I can run 2 Creation Kits at the same time.
Oh my God.
Because I have so many different mods going now. I'm like, it would be better if I could reference them both at the same time.
Jesus, you have 2 keyboards too? And what the hell?
No, I love to tab between them, but
my head would explode with 2 CKs running.
I could tell I was getting toward needing that when at any given time I have like 5 object windows open where I'm like, all right, clearly it's time for another CK window. But
that's funny. But yeah, the Creation Kit and the game running at the same time was a big breakthrough for me too. I used to run a real POS potato computer when I first got into modding, and then
I'm always shocked. There's quite a few people who do that, who run on a potato. You can tell by their screenshots from their mods where they're just like, it's like, oh man,
yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. You're like, my God, why don't you try turning on the specular and maybe HD graphics? But that doesn't stop them from modding. I gotta give them props.
There's another some of the people who do city plans for our city plan contest. Like they'll turn in their video footage for that because what we do with that. I know you don't follow a ton of Sim settlement stuff, but with the city plan contest, we have a settlement building contest, and at the end of it, the 3 finalists have to record a tour of their settlement so that we can show them all off. And sometimes people will send it to me, and it's so low resolution and all the texture graphics. I'm like, oh my God. Like you built that whole settlement on a potato? Like that's so impressive because the game must be going at like 3 FPS. Yeah, exactly.
I give them props.
Right.
I really do. I give them props.
I try and offer to record their stuff for them because I feel bad because it's like, oh, you're going to be at a total disadvantage because of your video quality. But man,
that's nice of you.
The dedication for them to actually build at that low FPS is impressive.
I installed the new kitchen cabinets and backstop for my wife and got a computer for my efforts.
Oh, nice.
A decent one now.
So you got a pretty solid graphics card and everything can run those high res settings.
1070 GTX.
That's what I'm running. That's a
it's
totally
decent
good
enough.
card. Good card.
I'm gonna get a second one and run them side by side.
Oh, nice.
But I'm in no massive hurry. Yeah, it's a really nice card. I'm very pleased with it.
I actually have a system running a. I got 2 gaming machines because my last one I upgraded it as like much as I could, and now it's barely running, but it's got like a 970 in it, and my newer one's got a 1070. Obviously not that new, because now we're up to like the 20 series now.
Yep, we are.
But my 970 runs Fallout 4 better than my 1070, which is really weird. Like that's such.
Don't tell me that.
The game engine is so bizarre about how it handles things. Like I've had people send me complain about like crashing when they use certain city plans from Sim Settlements. And they'll send me their specs and they'll just like blow my entire system out of the water. They'll like have like double the processing power, double the memory. They're on like the latest, they got like dual SLI 1080s and their game's crashing. I'm like, I don't know what to tell you. Like I run that totally fine on a 970. Like I can't explain it. There's something weird about this game.
It could be, mod conflicts. You never know why they're crashing.
Right. Game mod conflicts.
You usually get the white squares before if it's a GPU crash.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Well, sometimes that's like if you run out of texture memory and you start getting those like rainbow effect on the textures and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's hard to tell. I don't know. I can never tell if it's mod conflicts or maybe it's even something stupid like a driver issue. Like maybe the game is optimized for the graphics cards that existed at the time when the game came out, and maybe some of the optimizations they made don't work
if the
well
card
now.
manufacturer's best answer is going to be latest drivers, your best answer is going to be latest drivers too.
Yeah.
I mean, there's only so much you can do.
But yeah, it's definitely more of a pleasure to mod the game when you can run it at full graphics settings. Because then you gotta be in there all the time, and then you're gonna notice if you have to keep looking at the potato stuff. It's gonna feel, especially if you ever like take a peek on at modern games and like on console, and you're like, wow, that Xbox looks better than my computer.
Well, yeah, but they have the advantage of running dedicated hardware too. They know exactly what video card that Xbox has in it, so the developers can target it for that.
I'm just saying that like if you're the guy developing mods on a potato and you just keep seeing like you see a commercial for the latest Xbox game, it's like, man, like,
oh yeah, you're like, why
so
don't
much
we
for
get a
PC
damn
Master
console?
Race, my potato here. All right, man. Well, I am very much looking forward to the release of your Diamond City stuff. It sounds like you're not the type who wants to throw out deadlines before it's done. You probably work until it's done.
No, I'm still working on the quests for the bleachers mod. Most of the interior decorating is done, and then after the bleachers will be Fen Sheriff's Department, which is like the big icing on the cake. You'll have new NPCs, you'll have entire new classes with matching armor and their own camo paint jobs of power armor, sniper armor, even under armor for the Fen Sheriff guards. But I'll be honest, I've been working on the Fen Sheriff Department for probably 2 years now.
So just off and on when you find the inspiration, pop in there.
Yeah, off and on, mostly on, but I go in there, I tweak a few things, and I learn some more, and then I go back, change, tweak. As I said, the next big thing for the Fen Sheriff's Department though is the NPCs and the quests, and hopefully sometime this year for Fen Sheriff's Department.
Awesome. Well,
but the bleachers, I imagine another month or so.
Okay.
Hopefully for bleachers, it's almost all done already, just minus the quests. And I have Serenia. I don't know if you know her from the Grounded mod and Creative Clutter. Yeah. She's she's going to record the dialogue for the botanist in the greenhouse.
Oh, cool. That's perfect.
Yeah. So at least things are planned, and most of the quests and the dialogue is, if not recorded, it's at least written and working.
Sure. Well, that's awesome. Well, I'm sure everybody now, especially having seen all of the background footage that we're going to have played, I'm sure we're going to be very excited to see that. It's so fun to see quest mods come out because they add, even though, and it's funny how like I said at the beginning, is that there's so much work and the payoff is so small in the amount of time people get into them, but I think they're just that much more appreciated because of it.
Well, the best mods, I mean, they literally add game life.
Right. Yeah, it's not even about the replayability. It's just this feeling of like it's a living world now.
As we were talking about boob mods, you can always put on a new set of clothes and show off boobs, but what actual quests are you running? What stories are unfolding?
Sure.
that kind of stuff. I think that's the quest mods are probably the best types of mods so far. At least for me.
I agree. I
gotta say, Conquerors had a huge draw to me for to have the settlement set up in advance, though. That's really had me scratching my chin.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are using it for that, just because it's like they're just bored of the building or never liked it in the first place, and then being able to just like still have those as explorable territory.
I didn't like how ephemeral it was. I put in a lot of hours only to have it gone for a new save game. Thank God Dante's Transferable Settlements came out.
Yeah,
that helped save that. But I still think I'd much rather do Creation Kit. I know doesn't get as many user reviews if you do Creation Kit, and as much user raves as a workshop mod, but. There's much more permanence, I think, about an ESP file than a workshop mod.
Yeah, and I think
not a workshop mod, than a workshop settlement, rather.
Right. I think Conqueror is trying to bridge the gap there of being able to have it dynamic still, so that things can change without you having to install. And then for example, with Conqueror, one of the things you can do is have a whole bunch of different designs for each of the settlements installed, and it'll randomize between them. So then when you start out, you essentially have 36 new locations to explore that you have no idea what's going to be there.
Yeah, I saw your introduction video to it, and the one you first put up. I was just mind blown, all the variety you had there and all the settings for that startup menu.
Yeah, we got more planned. So it's by the time you get back to finally play the game again, it'll probably be a whole different experience. But yeah, I think the quest mods are super cool to have come out, and I think in the long term, they're some of the greatest mods because of when you haven't, like, especially I don't know if this is the pattern every Bethesda player goes through, but this is what I tend to do is I will every year or two I get the itch to play through like Skyrim or Fallout 4 or New Vegas. And then I go ham on mods.
But I never finish it.
Yeah, I don't either.
I never finished Skyrim. I've started Skyrim a number of times. I've literally never finished the main storyline of Skyrim. I'm ashamed to say that.
I think a lot of people are with you there because that game doesn't force it down your throat like a game like Fallout does, where it's like
main quest. I played Skyrim. I played Skyrim on, I think it was PS3 or was it PS2? I forget which.
Yeah.
And I guess one day it was like what I told you at first. I went into a cave. Out came some skeletons. What the F? I am stunned with this damn game.
Oh, wow.
And more skeletons, and I put it down.
Oh, wow. No, I definitely did not have that same experience. But what I was getting at there is when I come back to a game that I haven't played for a while, the first thing I do is go crazy downloading mods. I go download like the first 100 I find in the top files of Nexus. And then a lot of that tends to be quest mods, and then it's like a whole new game. Because there's so much new stuff I can't remember what's from the original game and what's mod content. And then every time I come across a quest, it's super exciting. So long term.
That's why I
love quest
Tales
mods.
from the Commonwealth and Project Valkyrie.
Yeah.
They're really nice. I like quest mods. Skyrim is nice. I haven't run into any Skyrim quest mods though. All the top ones
there are so many quest mods for Skyrim. God, somebody
really?
I think there's a lot of them are world space though. Like there's like Falskar and Elsewhere. What else are the other ones? There's like a bunch of them that are just like full world space mods. And then now there's the why can't I think of it?
Endriel?
What's that? Oh yeah, there's Endurial.
Too,
that
right?
thing's nuts,
Endurial,
or however you say that. Yeah, and then but there was the other one where they're going to try and recreate all of Tamriel. They did the Cyrodiil release of it beyond Skyrim.
Dear Lord!
Yeah, like that monster.
I heard about the Cyrodiil in the Skyrim. They're gonna be at that project for a while.
Oh, that's gonna be like a lifetime project for them. Like redoing. I mean, basically they're gonna do the work of the Elder Scrolls Online team with whatever small mod team they have being unpaid. Like that's a lot of work they're gonna be doing.
Yeah, I heard Endurial had like 6 people on it. Did that entire mod. It was insane.
Yeah, they must have like 6 really dedicated people to pull that off.
Yeah,
but yeah.
I mean, those big project mods. I wish they got a couple of those are coming for Fallout 4. I wish the New Vegas team really good luck and they're going for the audio ground up, aren't they?
Yeah, that's a tall order. Same with Capital Wasteland. They're trying to do the same thing. I've been modding for about 20 years now, just various games, and I've been involved with a lot of those big projects, and it's so rare that they get completed that it's like when one does, it's like we should all be jumping up and down and celebrating, because it's a big deal to take those projects through 4 to 5 years of development. Like,
I was trying to stay positive. I didn't want to mention that either.
I mean, it'll be. I mean, good luck to them, and I hope they pull it off. I just, in my experience,
some of the stuff that's coming out of the new Vegas team is just. Have you seen their character creation video?
Their stuff is very impressive, and I like that. I think that they're doing it smart. They're doing kind of what we're. So with Sim Settlements, our long term goals we've been keeping under wraps, because we don't want like everybody to like expect this out of us, because then they'll be constantly asking for updates and whatnot.
Well, then don't tell me on this.
I'm not going to. No, I'm just going to say that we have grand goals, but we're doing it piecemeal. Like, that's why we do expansion packs and stuff, because then it lets the players try it all out, and it like then no matter what, like if it falls apart at some point, we will have released something. It's not like whereas like a mod like Cascadia, if that falls apart, then all that work is for naught. But like Fallout New Vegas or Fallout 4 New Vegas, they're releasing almost everything piecemeal, and so like no matter what, like we gained a lot from that team.
Yeah,
which is awesome.
Yeah, that's very talented team too. I've seen Sagittarius and Space Time Bender is a beautiful cell builder. I don't know if you've seen some of her stuff.
I don't know if I've identified it individually, but I've watched a lot of their stuff because it's always impressive, and I always know that like their weapon mods they're going to release and their UI mods they release, and so there's always new toys for us to get from them.
Yeah, no kidding. We benefit from their development, that's for sure.
Yeah, I think more big mods teams should do that. I think that it keeps everybody motivated, because then their name, they get to see that their stuff is out in the world and players are appreciating it. And it's like, just like think about yourself, like how motivated would you be to work on your stuff if you had to, if it took 3 years before you could see anything in the game. Like, it's not gonna.
Oh, wait till you see my Fen Sheriff's apartment armors then, because they've been waiting in the wings for a long time.
But it's way more motivating to yourself when you get to release chunks, like, and you get feedback.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
like, know that you're making milestone completions. Like, it's I think more big mod teams would be better off following the pattern that Fallout 4 New Vegas is doing.
I agree. That's why I'm releasing the diner started, then the bleachers, and I'm going to be working my way towards the southeast section of the stadium, towards the Fen Sheriff's Department.
Yeah.
Instead of one big mod.
Yeah. Well, we're looking forward. I'm looking forward to it, and I think everybody else will be, now that they've seen all this footage in the background. So, thank you for all the effort you put in, man. All right. I appreciate it.
No problem. You take care. Thanks for asking me in.
Yeah. Thanks for talking with me.